Staff? Michael, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Sean. All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you for being patient while we got started. Welcome to tonight's full design review board meeting. It's Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. It's 7:05 p.m. I call us to order, and I have a quorum of 8 out of 9 members. We're waiting on our ninth. Hopefully he will join, and staff will let me know when he is here. Um, I do not have any opening remarks. I do have an amendment. We have a late scratch on the agenda that I need to update. So I'm going to make a motion to amend tonight's agenda to remove application J and K, which is for 1390 Concord Point Lane. We got some last minute information that there is not everything that we asked for done correctly by the procedures. And so we have been asked to remove that from our agenda tonight. So 1390 Concord Point Lane, which is application, there was 2 for J and K, is going to be a motion to remove it off of the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
All right, there's a second by Heather. So all in favor of amending the agenda, say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? Ramon is still not here, so it passes 8-0. All right. I'm looking to approve any meeting minutes. Staff, what do we got meeting minute wise?
April 21st, April 28th, May 5th, and May 12th.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve April 21st, April 28th, May 5th, also known as Cinco de Mayo, and May 12th meeting minutes?
So moved. Mike B.
All right. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? All right. Passes 8-0. All right. We have up first. Oh, I didn't even know we were doing this tonight. Design Review Board elections.
Michael,
Oh, no.
sorry, apologize. Ramon is unable to attend due to an emergency, and he's communicated that if we don't have quorum, then he will be able to join while in transit to where he's going. So if you would like, you may want to decide how the order for the agenda.
Okay. I guess it's more of because we need to have quorum. We need him for application H, correct?
That is correct.
So is he saying he's available now, or is he available in a little bit, or?
Oh, just give me 1 second. Actually, you're actually good to go.
Right.
Ramon was the substitute for that
Oh,
meeting.
right. Yeah, he was the
Yeah.
sub. Yeah, he was having to recuse himself anyway on that one. Okay, so we can continue with design review board elections, Cam.
Correct.
All right, so it's that time of year where we normally have to nominate somebody from the board to be vice chair and chair, or three vice chairs, excuse me, and 1 chair. So if anyone has a motion that they want to put on the table, feel free to speak up and go for it.
Make a
I
motion.
would, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Brian. Don't let me talk over you.
Sorry, I was gonna make a motion to nominate Michael Wood as chair.
All right, there's a motion. Do I hear a second? Second.
Heather.
Who was that seconded?
Heather.
Heather?
Yes.
All right, there's a motion and second. Any discussion on that?
We appreciate your leadership there, Mr. Chairman. We've certainly, you've done an awesome job in the time that I've served with you. So here, as it were.
All right, and for one procedural thing, Gazde is trying to get host control. So if somebody could just give her a computer, she joined, just to make sure she can unmute and vote, just as a heads up. All right, so there's a motion, a second. Some
I got it now.
appreciate the nomination, Brian. and we can take a vote. So all in favor of me for chair, say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? I will abstain. The motion will pass 7-0-1. Thank you, everybody. I will continue to serve as long as I can be on the board, which I think is only like another year. So, all right. Now we're looking for vice chairs. There are 3 vice chairs. Does anybody want to make a nomination for a vice chair position?
I'm a nominate. Go ahead, Samantha.
Thank you. This is Samantha. I like to nominate Emily continue to be vice chair.
Okay.
She did a wonderful job.
We have a nomination for Emily Inglis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's a second from Gazday.
Yes.
Any further discussion on that? All right. All in favor of Emily for vice chair, say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Thank you, Emily. All right. Motion passes 7-0-1. So congrats, Emily. Welcome back
Thank you.
to vice
Welcome to
chair.
serve again.
All right. Now I'm looking for another vice chair nomination.
Can I nominate Mike B for vice chair?
You sure can. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Gazday. Nomination by Heather, seconded by Gazday. Any further discussion for Mike B?
I sincerely appreciate that my band members there just put me forward, so thank you.
Yeah, we love you.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Blue
against?
panel is the
Oh.
best.
Any abstentions? Any
I'll
abstentions?
abstain, Michael.
All
I'll
right.
abstain.
7-0-1. Thank you, Mike, for serving and welcome
Thank you.
back. And now I'm looking for the last vice chair.
I would make a motion to appoint Brian if
Yep.
he was so willing.
All right, we have a nomination of Brian Cutler. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
A second by Gazday. I think she beat in whoever was second there. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, congrats, Brian, for being nominated again for vice chair. We have basically status quo for 2026. So that'll make it easy on staff not having to shake up panels. All
Thank
right.
you all.
Thank you. Thank you. We will move on to members' comments. Does anyone have any? This is a public meeting for Reston Association. Are there any general member comments that are not in pertaining to tonight's applications? If so, feel free to raise your hand and staff will try to acknowledge you if you are here. I am not seeing anybody. All right, then we can move into the agenda. First, we have a work session for item G, which is 1850 Old Reston Ave. They are redeveloping the old AAFMA. I think I have that right. Office park that is right now off Old Reston Ave. And so we had to sadly push them last meeting. So we appreciate your guys' flexibility in coming back. And I do apologize about that last week, or not last week, last month. But feel free to take it away. I know you guys are looking to get us to give some official, sort of official feedback for the Reston P&Z board. And we will do our best. So feel free to take it away.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the DRB. My name is Zach Fountain, and I'm a land use planner with Walsh Colucci. So unfortunately, tonight, Andrew Painter with my firm cannot be here to attend, but he sends his best regards to the board. Joining me this evening is from EYA is Mika Glenfond Gross and Jack McLaurin. So tonight we're here to present as a courtesy the residential development proposal for 1850 Old Reston Avenue. And before we start the presentation, I do want to commend EYA and AFMA for coming together and really putting together a really special application that preserves and honors the I always screw this up. Sorry, guys. The 1899 circa Bowman House and some of the supporting features that are on this property today. Next slide, please. So real quick, to orient everyone, the property is located on the west side of Old Reston Avenue and just north of the WNOD Trail. And you can see in the center of the property is the Bowman House, and just to the south of the Bowman House are two mirroring office buildings that were built in the 1980s. Just south of that, there's a historic pond and gazebo, and then along Old Reston Avenue, there's an existing white brick wall. Some of the surrounding uses that I think are important here is to the west and the north, we have the Stratford condominiums, and across the street we have the Sycamores, both residential developments. Next slide. Great. So these are a couple of existing condition photos that we have. To start on the top left corner, this is a perspective that's taken from Old Reston Avenue. And you can see there's an existing white wall, the Bowman House that sits on top of the hill, and behind that is the existing office building. The bottom left-hand corner is an aerial image of the existing Bowman House, and behind that again is the office building. And then on the right-hand side, you have a perspective image as well from Old Reston Avenue. It shows the existing white brick wall today. We are proposing to preserve that portion of the wall and the Bowman House behind it. Next slide. So before we get into the details of the project that we're here to discuss tonight, first wanted to talk about the comprehensive plan. So the property is planned for office and or residential use at a 0.64 FAR. And a couple of design recommendations are important to note here that were historically contained in the comprehensive plan, but later taken out. The first is that it's critical to preserve the Bowman House, gazebo, and pond that are existing on the property today. And two, the comprehensive plan formally recommended that future development be sensitively designed around these features. And that's something that my client EYA has taken to heart when putting together this development proposal, the site design, and pulling together the architectural design of the proposed townhomes. Next slide. So a little bit about AFMA. AFMA stands for the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association, and AFMA has owned this property since 2009, and has invested significant resources into maintaining both the existing office buildings on the site, which they operate out of, and the Bowman House. They've been true stewards of this property. And then we'll hop to the next slide. And some of you may be aware of this approval that was obtained by AFMA in 2019. It was for a office building. The vision for this approval was going to be AFMA's headquarters, but since 2019, their need for office space has severely shifted and downsized. So they're looking to right now reposition the property. And in doing so, they thought that residential use would be a great use on this property today. And in doing so, they reached out to a number of developers and ultimately selected EYA because of their experience in designing infill residential communities and incorporating historic assets, and also emphasizing pedestrian-oriented design, especially with the proximity of the WNOD Trail. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mika with EYA to walk through the proposed plan and the architectural approach that's proposed here. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us this evening. I'm excited to dive in and hear your feedback here. So if you could go to the next slide, please. A little bit of a very brief overview of EYA. Some of you might be familiar with us, but for those that are not, We are, as Zach mentioned, an infill townhome development firm with over 30 years experience exclusively in the DMV. As part of our history, we've actually developed a number of sites that have very similar conditions to the AFMA site today, which is to say that there has been a historic asset on the site, in some cases a historic home that we're preserving, and further developing townhomes around it in a way that celebrates the integrity of the existing structures and also that pays homage to the history. So we were really excited to receive this site and work with AFMA and coming up with an alternative future to it from what was previously approved in 2019. Next slide, please. And you flashed my money shot but before I was ready, but here's a rendering of a view of the site, and we just want to start with this. We'll get into the plan in a moment, but just to help give a little bit of perspective here, and of what we have as a dream for the site. You can see the historic gazebo that's in the foreground. Immediately off the page on the right is where the pond would be. And then it is, very lush and green. This is, not day one of our plantings, but up on the top of the hill, looking through the townhomes is the Bowman House. And this is actually, a view from the WNOD Trail. It is a view corridor that exists, today when you have the WNOD behind you. And we purposely wanted to plan the site, as we'll see on the next slide, with the preserving existing view sheds, and also using the grade, and there's a tremendous amount of grade on the site, to our advantage to really, raise up and celebrate the home and the natural historic assets. So next slide, please. So what does that look like from a site plan perspective? I've flipped you around a little bit. So Old Reston Avenue is on the bottom of your screen. The WNOD Trail is on the left side. And the Stratford condominiums, our neighbor, is on the top and the right of the screen. And so we are proposing 57 townhomes that will be located proximate to and surrounding the Bowman House. There will be a number of different public open spaces available. One is at just about halfway along Old Reston Avenue. Is a entrance point between what Zach described as the existing white brick wall on the right side. On the left side, there is a not as attractive CMU cinder block wall that exists today that we're actually taking down and rebuilding a new white brick wall to match the nice one that's in its stead. And this is a transition point that allows for pedestrian permeability into the site and to walk up and see the Bowman House. Immediately planned north here of the Bowman House is a garden that is inspired by what historically was a boxwood garden on the site for many years. And then by the pond on the far left side of your screen, where the gazebo is, that will also be a really wonderfully active public space that will have a butterfly garden, seating, and will also have a connection to the WNOD, which we'll discuss in a little bit more detail as we move along in our plan here. Next slide, please. So thinking about the site and how we laid it out, thinking specifically about the preservation of these historic elements, right? Like the house stays where it is. We're building around it and celebrating it, maintaining, as I mentioned earlier, view corridors, both from, with the WNOD behind you, but also as you're driving down Old Reston Ave or up it and how the road curves. We're accommodating our adjacencies. We have been working very closely with the Stratford condominiums. There is on the north side of your screen, what I neglected to mention was there's a tree preserve area that we have been working hand in hand with Stratford. It's really important to them, and it's also, frankly, quite important to us as well. We purposefully proposed front-loaded townhome units right along the property line so that we could not have cars that had lights that were shining in on our Stratford neighbors, and also we're designing the overall layout of the plan in order to preserve those trees that were so important. Our unified architectural expression, this essentially is to say that we took a look at the house, and our architect, Jack McLaurin, is on the call today as well. We looked at the historic nature of the house and wanted to reflect that and celebrate that with the architecture of the townhomes, without doing, a direct copy. It's how can we once again pay homage to what's there, but also provide something that is new and of this time while celebrating the past. And then, we talked a little bit about these open space designs, but that's something that every space that we have identified here is interconnected, and in many ways designed to further accentuate the existing historic assets on the site and to celebrate those as well. Next slide, please. So Zach touched on 2019 approval a little bit more, and I just wanted to add, specifically in that approval were proffers that were designed to maintain this historic integrity of the site. And as Zach mentioned, that they were in a prior iteration of the comp plan, and for some reason are not in the most recent. But why we have this slide for you all tonight is to say that the historic nature of the site is important to us, and we are going to be honoring and carrying forward these historic commitments that were previously approved in 2019. The preservation of the Bowman House is of paramount importance, as is the gazebo and the wall along Old Reston Avenue. Next slide, please. So here's a call out, and it has a little bit more detail and help orient you. So some of these things we've talked about. If you start at the bottom of the screen, that's that public connection to the sidewalk. Moving clockwise, we have our WNOD proposed connection. We have our historic pond and gazebo. There is an alternative connection to the WNOD based off of Nova Parks approvals, VDOT approvals, and also the presence of utilities. So we have a couple of options because it's of paramount importance that a connection exists. So we have a couple of those. There is also a proposed path that ties into an existing path that's on the Stratford property that is another access point to the WNOD. So again, this theme of connectivity, a historic inspired garden, and our preservation of that white brick wall and view sheds. Next slide, please. So now that you understand the plan, I wanted to share this rendering again to help provide a little bit of perspective. And so there's a key in the bottom left corner, and so this is once again, if you're standing with the WNOD behind you, this is the view up to the Bowman House. Next one, please. Now this is looking at if you are standing on the roof of one of the front-loaded units. On the roof deck. This is looking at the historic inspired garden and the Bowman House. Next slide, please. This is at the existing entrance to the site, which actually will be an exit because we have actually a one-way street through the site. In which you enter on the southern portion of the site, or for the plan in the bottom left corner on the left side, and you exit here. That allowed us extra space for additional street trees, and was something that we worked closely with staff, and it was actually a recommendation. We thought it was a great one, but this is if you're turning in today, if you're familiar with the site and that curved portion of the white brick wall, that is what you'd be looking at. Next slide, please. And then because we've ghosted out the trees here so that you can see the Bowman House a little more easily, but this is a slide as you are driving along Old Reston Ave. This is the view shed we have endeavored to preserve of the house, which helps make Old Reston Ave really a beautiful scenic byway. Next slide, please. This is looking south on the site, and you can see a little in the background. That's the Evo building and the power lines along the WNOD. The Bowman House and the garden is on the left, and the front-loaded units are on the right. Next slide, please. And so, we've been at this for over a year and a half now at this point. And we have talked with a number of different stakeholders, Stratford Condominium, of course, our neighbors, Nova Parks. We've met and been in discussion with them as it relates to the WNOD connection. Of course, Fairfax County staff, we have met and presented in front of the Fairfax Architectural Review Board, the Fairfax History Commission. Shame on us that Reston Association is not on this list, but we have been in conversations with Peter Lusk and Natalie Serio as well. And it's a great productive conversations. Next slide, please. Key things that we have heard from staff and integrated into the plans is, of course, preserving the historic proffers, the preservation of the existing white brick wall on Old Reston Ave. In the next slide, I'll show you that in a little bit more detail. There is a lot of attention and care given to the design of the Old Reston streetscape. How do you marry comprehensive plan recommendations? Since we are in approximate to Reston Town Center, meeting those requirements while also preserving the historic bucolic nature of the site. The reuse of the Bowman House, and we'll tell you what the plan is for that in just a moment, but the spoiler alert is it will in all likelihood become a single family home. We added a crosswalk across Old Reston Ave to American Dream Way. We've discussed the WNOD connection and having a lot of public open space and permeability for the public. Next slide, please. So I don't know how well it shows on everyone's computer screens, but the right side, which is a darker blue of this wall, is the existing white brick wall that is continuous and will be untouched. If you can see, it's in a little bit of a lighter orange color, dashed color. That is the existing cinder block wall, and a photo of that is in the top left corner. It's a cinder block wall with a brick cap. It's really not that attractive. And so what we're going to be doing is building a new white brick wall to match the existing one. And there will be a couple of breaks for pedestrian access and circulation and fire safety in the newly constructed white brick wall. However, we are not touching the existing white wall at all. That will be maintained in its entirety. Next slide, please. This is the prior 2019 approval Old Reston Ave streetscape, and it's a little hard to see on this plan, but essentially it's a 5-foot wide sidewalk that is on the exterior of the wall. Next slide, please. And so staff's directive was, we want a wider sidewalk. We want it to be 6 feet. We want plenty of understory and street trees on the interior of the wall, and additional plantings on the exterior as well. And so that's what we took. And next slide, please, is ultimately what we implemented here. And so this was developed with extensive input from both staff and Commissioner Carter. At the end of the day, it is still subject to VDOT approval because we require modifications, waivers for the width of the sidewalk and the landscape amenity panel. That's actually a modification waiver that we have submitted and are waiting to hear back within the next 5 to 10 days from VDOT. However, just in case, we did need to include an alternative in our submission that is something that we wouldn't require a VDOT modification. And that, I believe, is on the next slide. If you could go to that one, please. Yeah, and that's right. And so the alternative is a sidewalk entirely on the interior of the white wall. This presents some challenges. It's funny. We've heard some people like it better and others don't. On the pro side, we're able to get a line of street trees on the exterior of the wall that preserves this sort of bucolic, historic nature of Old Reston Avenue. On the minus side, based off of the grade of the site, there does require a staircase about halfway through what the interior sidewalk would be that would not have been required on the prior iteration. And there are a number of different other handicap accessible routes throughout the site, but it wouldn't be here. There's also a sidewalk immediately across the street that is ADA compliant. And there are a couple of different crosswalks on the site, including a new a mid-block cross that we've introduced. So there are plenty of access points. But again, this is only the alternative if the prior iteration is not approved by VDOT. Next slide, please. And this is a brief diagram of all of the connectivity for pedestrians throughout the site. While we do have a couple of specifically designated urban rec spaces, that is, by the pond and gazebo, and that connection to the Old Reston Ave sidewalk. All of the sidewalks throughout the site will be publicly accessible through easement. Next slide, please. And this goes to this larger theme that we've been thinking about and looking at, with Zach and his team's guidance. It was, okay, well, the WNOD, if we flip the plan on its head and we think about the original concepting or the more recent concepting within the comprehensive plan for the WNOD, it is almost like a New York High Line adjacent use, and that there are a lot of various stopping points and assets in our community that sort of splinter off of the WNOD, and so this is a diagram that essentially shows when we flip the plan on its head and we don't think about it from a vehicular perspective on Old Reston, but we think about it from a pedestrian experience on the WNOD. What does that feel like? And we're honestly we're quite proud about how that connection works and how this site with its public accessibility and celebration of historic assets contributes to the community in that way. Next slide, please. So the future of the Bowman House. So the original exterior of the building will remain untouched as it is today. It is actually an office building use today. It was converted in the early 2000s to office. But the exterior, looks essentially the same. And our plan is to convert it from what it once was, which was a home, back currently to office, and we want to convert it back into a single family home. So that's our plan. That being said, in our submission, in our CDP FDP submission, we did allow for a couple of alternatives, just so that we could be agile with the market. It's a downside protection mechanism. If anything, we feel fairly confident that there is a single family buyer for this spectacular historic home. That being said, it could remain as its current office use in a potential alternative iteration or a private clubhouse for the community. Both in the office and clubhouse uses, there's a parking requirement, and that would be in the place of what we currently have as that boxwood garden. But once again, we're excited about marketing this for a single family buyer, and I think it's the best use for the site. And ultimately, we're confident that the biggest goal that we have is to maintain the integrity of the home and make sure that it's taken care of well into the future. And we think that this strategy allows us to do exactly that. Next slide, please. So architectural inspiration came from the Bowman House. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but here are a couple of rendered elevations to draw some of these parallels. And I'm mindful of the time, so I'd be happy to, Jack and myself would be happy to talk more about this, but for now, let's please go to the next slide. Additional elevations here. Next slide, please. These are the front-loaded units where the balance are the rear-loaded units, and you can see where those are located on the plan as well. Next, please. And then finally, these units, we call them the Muse units, the Muse, that Central Park that they are located on. Their fronts are buried. And so what the significance of that is, when you are standing on that Muse and that green space in the center, they look like they are only 2 stories, with the setback for a loft space that is set back from a roof deck. But in actuality, they have essentially, an English style basement. That's where the parking is. Why this is parking garages for each home. Why is this significant, and why do I take a moment of pause here? Because this is something that, in using the grade and using the architecture strategically, we've been able to essentially shrink the pedestrian view of the scale of the townhome in order to further draw the attention and the eye to the Bowman House and continue to celebrate that historic asset. Next slide, please. So as a recap, and I won't go through each and every one of these, but this project it takes the historic preservation of the site extremely seriously. From a parks and open space perspective, we're exceeding the open space requirements and really have a site that is incredibly permeable to pedestrians and the public. Mobility and accessibility speaks to that as well. ADA accessibility throughout. We're building the new sidewalk on Old Reston where one does not currently exist, as well as a Shero for bikes. And environmental stewardship, we didn't speak about this in any great detail, but this is an all-electric project. There is no gas except for that's existing in the Bowman House. We have modern stormwater management systems. We'll be designing to an Earthcraft standard, which for those that are not familiar is an alternative to LEED. EV charger infrastructure will be standard, and that is a plug-in, and then there's also the option for the EV solar and then the charger install. So the infrastructure is the conduit and pole for clarity. And I think that's it. So thank you all for your time, and looking forward to answering any questions and hearing your feedback.
Great, thank you. What we'll do is we'll go around the room and just get any feedback from each individual board member. So board members, just feel free to give any comments, questions, etc. And then the team for Old Reston Avenue can answer. So let's maybe Samantha's already seen this because I saw another board she sits on was on the list. So Samantha, I'm gonna let you kick it off.
Yes, I have seen this project twice, and so very familiar with the proposal, and I'm in support of this project. I feel it's really well done, and in terms of architecture, in terms of design, in terms of historical preservation. So I do not have further comments and further question.
Great, thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support.
Gazde?
I have a quick question, just for clarity. It's not a comment or anything for that matter. But thank you very much for a beautiful project. The way you explained it and the way you connected with history and all that is impressive, and amount of work you guys have done. It's impressive. Thank you for sharing it with us. I do have a question about the Muse. I didn't understand the part where you're parking underneath. So is that
sure.
like the house, the Muse Central Park is sitting elevated and then there's parking behind on the surface lot, or are
Sure.
you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know what? Whomever is controlling, could I trouble you to go to that first rendering where the Bowman House was up on the hill behind?
Slide 13, maybe, staff, I think gives the best view of.
Yeah, there it is. So guys, it is.
Oh yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, so if you're standing in the alley within
Right.
between the rear loaded units, then you pull into your normal parking garage, your private parking garage. But then you walk up the steps, and if you are on your second floor in your townhome, you walk out onto the Muse.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yes.
Sure.
I thought maybe that's something like that, but I didn't understand. So the other side of that central green, that's actually up and elevated. Is that also an alley that the similar situation happens there? It's just the courtyard is elevated.
Correct. Yeah. The
Correct,
two
okay.
buildings that flank the courtyard are sort of mirror of one another.
So the other question is that, we've seen another project like this, such as this, not yours, not EYA's.
Yeah.
But there's this whole thing about like just haphazardly placing windows wherever they fall with a flat facade on the rear
Yeah.
of these alleys. We call them alleys, and all of a sudden, they do look like actually someone that doesn't want to actually look out to that direction.
Sure.
With the same siding material and all that, I'm just wondering if there's another way of designing them. It's not only alleys that the two buildings are facing each other, but there's buildings that are along the path, and looking at Stafford, all those people are going to be looking at the backs of these units is just question. And then another question that I have is, if you sell the single family home as the Bowman House as a single family home,
Yeah.
could you make, because you're talking about this green and flowing, luscious, plains and, gardens and all that. What happens if they put a fence around it because they have two large dogs?
Sure. Great,
lot.
great questions. I'll answer your second question first. And then the notion of windows and alleys maybe is one of our architect Jack McLaurin's favorite topics. So I'll punt it over to him. But the plan currently for the Bowman House identifies a fence. That's for privacy for that home. The fence in our application has a proposed design that we have control, or rather that staff will have control over to review and approve to ensure the historic integrity with the home. So there are in our proffer language various items related to the Bowman House that the Architectural Review Board has jurisdiction over, either in a comment capacity or in an approval capacity. But there will be a fence, there will be green planting surrounding the fence, and this is for the benefit not just of the community writ large and maintaining this luscious greenness, but also for the future homeowner as well. And Jack, do you want to speak at all relative to the alleys and the rear loads, and I think notably for Stratford, the front load home design?
Well, you did say it's my favorite topic, but on the fence, I'll just go back and say, as Mika has aptly described, the site is very publicly accessible. And we felt like the fence was also an element of maintaining privately accessible with publicly accessible and not merging the two on those borders. So that, that was very important to us. And on the alleys, you're right. Alleys are very functional, right? They're very utilitarian. That's where the utilities go, and that's where electric meters go. Fortunately, we don't have gas anymore, but on trash days, that's where the trash is. But in terms of the composition of the building, the first thing of note is that we understand there are views into these alleys, right? That's just the way it is. And we will take on the first end unit on the rear, and if you remember the plan, there are a couple of units that have rears that are exposed to higher views. We take the building materials and the details that are on the front and on the side, and we turn them into the rear. So there's not that Hollywood front that you might see on others where there's that stark transition from brick and then you turn the corner and it just goes to siding. That we don't do that. We turn those materials in for at least the first unit. I do try to very much compose the windows on the rears. It's that home form follows function, function follows form. There is a floor plan directive, but there's always a way to try to stack windows. You're not going to get a lot of symmetry, but there is an alignment of windows that we do pay attention to. So, I think they're not necessary. You see on the unit on the left, you'll see there's some stacking there. The rear, the very, very left on the image there, you'll see there's some stacking there. And the small window is in a bathroom, so our homes do have a lot of natural light in there. So I think when we get down the road there a little bit, you're gonna be pretty happy with what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gazde. Emily?
Give me the second I close my notebook. Okay. Overall, I do just want to say I love this presentation. I love this project. When I first saw the application and I saw the first slide and it was these big office buildings surrounding this historic manor house, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, ah! And then I saw these gorgeous residential buildings and I just was like, oh, that's so much better. So thank you for all of the thought and the intention that you've put into it. My notes through here are in no way meant to be a condemnation of all of the beautiful work you've done thus far. I remember when I was doing pinups and my professors would only give me the negative notes. So beautiful things. I'll make a compliment sandwich at the end. I do want to say I absolutely love even the details in the rendering, like this scrolling railing, like these little nods to historic, I think are really lovely, and I'm excited to see things like that. Can I ask, what is the square building next to the butterfly garden and north of the, can we go to slide 9? That's the overall, the site plan. Yeah, just what is the, and I just didn't see
Oh,
it labeled.
sure.
What's
Yeah.
the gray blob?
Great question, and we didn't give much attention to that at all. So the original footprint of the Bowman House is just the square, and then you see coming off of the top
Well,
right.
the white square.
Yes, the light square, and then coming off of the top right of that is a diagonal extension, and then another light colored square that exists today. That's an extension that is currently the kitchen for the home. It is not original to the home. It is not, considered under the same historic status. And then the darker square that you see is a proposed garage that we believe would need to be built in order to market this home as a single family residence because it doesn't have a covered garage today. That garage and what it looks like and how it integrates with the home, even though it is the not historic portion of the home, is all subject to ARB review and approval.
Okay, wonderful. That does answer that question. I read something about kitchen garage in there, and I'm assuming that as you've shown it, it will be attached. Like you could access this building through that garage. And
That's correct. Yeah, if you were to buy the home, then that's precisely it. You'd be able to pull in and walk right into your kitchen.
And Mika, I think we have the perspective image of that view, what the garage and that extension is going to look like in the presentation. I forget what slide
That's
it is
right.
though.
It's heavily it's heavily lush and so you can see a portion of the building, but it is it might have been the second rendering and
yeah, I didn't see anything that like particularly called out. And of course, you don't really want the garage to be the thing that stands out. I will
Yeah,
say,
but I want to be very clear though, if I might add, it doesn't actually connect to the living level of the house because it's almost a story below it. There's a lot of topography there. And so let's say the roof of the garage, which we anticipate might be a terrace of some sort for the homeowner, would be aligned floor level with the kitchen level. So the garage itself where you park your cars is lower just because of the topography. So I want to just make sure there's not a misconception there.
Yeah, slide 14 staff kind of shows what they're talking about. I mean, on the
there we are.
Yeah. So that
garage
kitchen
is there
is
tucked behind the arborvitaes or whatever those are there.
yeah, you'll see the kitchen is really where those 4 square windows are. The ×3, that's really the kitchen level. So you're going to be parking below and then going up.
Okay. Okay, so I think that answers that question. On that note, just as a general comment, I understand the market is what the market is. I don't love the idea of the central historic home being sold for individual use. I think that if you guys can manage it, it should be part of this community as a building. I know that you said you had parking restrictions. There might be a way around that. I know in certain other spaces, there's community building and you can get away without some of those delightful parking restrictions or maximizations, or maybe that's what that garage is for and you put an elevator in it and you can figure things out. But as a general rule, I think if at all possible, make this part of the community, it'd be lovely, because I did notice that same thing about like the fencing going around, and I actually don't, especially for buildings H and L, those 2 blocks, that fence around the manor house and also the topography leading up to it, I think creates a little bit of a disconnect for those buildings from the rest of the neighborhood, that I would love to see, even just like a cow path going from like, the front yards of building H, like over to the boxwood garden or something like, and that's the other question, is like, if you are going to sell this as a residential thing, would the boxwood garden be part of the residential unit or would it be part of the neighborhood?
Yeah, great points, great question. So first, to answer your question, the garden would be public.
Okay.
And so in that prior rendering with the arborvitaes, it was actually heavily planted to help preserve some of the privacy for the single family home. Now, in terms of the use, it's actually not an EYA decision. The home is currently owned by AFMA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. We are helping them reposition it as part of the redevelopment. They have a fiduciary obligation, which will, dictate the future use of the home. We believe that the single family market is strong for this, and that is why, our recommendation and how we're proceeding. We have explored actually quite extensively, Emily, the notion of having this home as a clubhouse. And unfortunately, for a community of only 57 units, and I neglected to mention 7 of those are affordable dwelling units. So of 50 market rate units, unfortunately, a community of this size it does not have the economies of scale in order to be able to support a community space, which is, take you as you will, it's a positive or a negative, but it would substantially increase the HOA fees by quite a substantial margin. And so we have the optionality in there, because while we think it will be a single family home, at the end of the day, we have an obligation to AFMA and AFMA to their fiduciaries, but also to maintain the home and know that whomever is the future owner, single family operator, if it would be an office operator as it has been today, or maybe the HOA would be interested, although unlikely, in taking on those costs, that the home will be maintained. And we have proffer language that speaks to that and ensures there are protective measures and there will be covenants associated with the property to make sure that it does not fall into disrepair. So in some ways, I mirror your sentiments of this as a community home, and we went or as a community space, and we've done some extensive research.
And I understand that's why I said, like, if it's at all
yeah.
possible,
I'm with
factors.
you. Yeah.
Speaking of, and I'm just trying to get through all my notes because I am looking at the time. But I'm looking at the backs of building E, F, and G. It appears that those are fenced-in yards on those, but they don't appear to have breaks in the fencing, or is that just a lot line? I guess I'm trying to figure out.
That's a great question. So
slide 9. Sorry.
Yeah. The yards will be fenced in, but there will be a path behind them, primarily for maintenance. And then beyond that, on the other side of the lot line and on the other side of the preserved trees, there is an existing public access path that is on the Stratford property. And in between buildings E and F, we're tying into that as well. There is also a sidewalk on both sides of that street. But yes, they are fenced in yards for those. Those are the front-loaded townhomes that we've seen in the render.
Front-loaded townhomes, but it's all like one big yard for those units, or are they supposed to?
No, they're separate. They're individual.
Okay, sorry. The line.
But each yard will have a gate.
Okay.
Yeah, each yard will have a gate, so each homeowner will be able to go out of their yard around to the rear. And I believe, I don't know, Mika, if we've done this yet, but our HOA has the ability that if people leave their gates unlocked, that our HOA goes in there and mows the lawn. But if they lock it because they have a pet or something, then they kind of have to take care of that on their own.
And then that's wonderful. And my last 2 points is one, and maybe it is just over by the pond, and again, it's just not labeled because you guys are not at that phase. I mean, I love the idea of having the butterfly boxwood garden, but do you guys have any plans for like a playground or like play space anywhere on the site? I mean, with this many units, you'd assume there would be like a child in it, maybe somewhere.
Sure. So not on this property. But there are certainly, I'm sure, be families that might be attracted to the property. Based off of our market research, we believe that this property will attract, not by no means exclusively, but a heavy percentage of empty nester population. That being said, and that aside, because there's always, I think, a wonderful opportunity for playgrounds. Part of the design for the site, we really wanted to make sure accentuated the the historic nature. And there are ways that you can make playgrounds, look really great and integrated. But having the boxwood garden and a butterfly garden and a celebration of the Bowman House with the Muse, we just prioritize sort of the more traditional historic open space over a playgrounds, especially considering who we ultimately believe will be the majority of our buyers.
Yeah, and I like that for like the central lawn and then the formal gardens, like those spaces being more, again, formal. I was just thinking of maybe over by the gazebo and the pond area, or down where that little kind of tucked in green space is. Like I think there's a space that you could evaluate that, even if it was for like future like demand. I think if you don't make a plan for where one's gonna go, when neighbors move in, they're gonna plunk one wherever they can, because that's something that I've seen happen.
Sure.
And then last but not least was just lighting. I saw a couple of little things about, it looks like, on the renderings, we've got some lighting on the existing walls. Obviously there's like sconce lighting and lighting from the houses, but is there any particular like street lighting, or I guess on some of the renderings we see, but like that would just be something I'd be interested in seeing in future phases of how we're planning on illuminating the space. And that was the end of my very long list, and ending it as I promised with the compliment sandwich. Again, I think this is gorgeous. I love the mission, and I'm very excited to see what you guys have in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate it. And on the lighting, you're right. That is the next level of detail that we will be tackling, but we will have plenty of street lighting, all along Old Reston Ave, meeting requirements, and then also interior to the site, of course, as well. And we take pains to make sure that we mitigate, light pollution and that no one's going to be sleeping in on the third floor of their townhome and have a light directly outside their window. So we will get there. But thank you for all your thoughtful comments and your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Just be mindful of time, guys. I want us to keep rolling. So just take that into account when you have your questions or comments. Even if we just have comments and don't respond, that's okay, because we just gotta keep rolling. We got other things on the agenda. So, Mike B, do you got anything to add? Comment?
Nothing from me, sir. Emily hit my note on the lighting. I'm good. Looks beautiful. Can't wait to see it. Thank you.
Yeah, I had the question about lighting too. Brian, do you have anything?
Yeah, I only have one comment. The others were mentioned already, so I'll hold off on those, but this is a perfect slide to look at. And if you were there last month, you would have heard me mention this as well too. The end units, I'll call like at the end of the alley between building A and building B.
Famous alley blocker, Brian.
Sorry?
It's the famous alley blocker.
Yeah. Anyways, between building C and D, I really don't understand these end units. And I think, well, I know we got the explanation last month. I'd be interested to hear more about that. But I just feel like you've gone to so much pains to make the site nice and connected and porous and everything like this. And those are just like blocking what I think could be a really important connection through the site. I feel like that end unit just gets so much heat from cars coming down the alleyway with headlights and things like that. I think those elevations, like the alley facing elevation, is going to be super important of what we're going to see there later. But and especially the end unit at building H and L, Emily's already mentioned it. I mean, even just to pull it closer to Old Reston Avenue to give it a little bit of relief from the Bowman House, and just kind of continue that kind of the street plane over on Old Reston, I think would be a huge advantage. They just feel like a bit of an outlier. But so I don't know what I'm sure you've all have thought about that.
Yeah, I would say from a planning principle, I think we were the ones who created that element in a lot of the land plans you see today. And Chairman Wood, he said alley blocker, right? That's really kind of what we call them, alley closers. But it starts out number one as a visual screen of the alley. And we do a lot of these where they don't work out, and we do fences or walls because that alley is very utilitarian and functional. And there's a science to how you get the cars to be able to circulate with that closing of the alley. And then there's a benefit to having a deeper front yard on that one particular unit, because it does end up typically being a larger home. Here, the building H and I, as you mentioned, it crept a little bit closer to the manor house because of the fire marshal requirements. That gap, you see I is actually two buildings. That gap didn't used to be there. And so it's a little bit unfortunate, but we had to do that in order to deal with Farm Marshal Peruti, who is very accommodating, but we needed to take care of him. The other two really absorb grade, and what you would have, the one on the bottom between A and B, on the high side you're at about an elevation 16, and on the alley you're at about an elevation 1. So you're about 15 feet where you'd be up there on that pathway looking down into that alley and straight onto people's decks, or even up into, maybe even a little bit higher. So it's a way to kind of screen that. If you go to the building between C and D, likewise on the garden side, you're at about an elevation 13, 14, 15. The alley is at about a 7 because of the topography, how it's super high on the right. What is it, Mika? 30, 40 feet from right to left, generally speaking. It's a lot. And so it's a way to create, instead of creating retaining walls where people are now looking down into there, it's a way to have a building form. A lot of public spaces are formed by the building walls. And that's a little bit of that concept in there. So that, whether you agree with it or not, I apologize, but the sort of the justification of why they are, where they are.
No, that's super helpful. And yeah, I hadn't thought about the grade there. So that helps a lot. I think it would be interesting to see, I guess that unit's going to be treated differently architecturally than I think all these others in the row. So it'll be
100%.
interesting to see in a later phase. So
100%. Yeah, you're exactly right.
You
It's
have
a
to be
pretty
a
cool
very
unit,
good
really,
driver to
if
be
you
able
look
to
at
buy
that
that
anyway.
one.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wood. I'm sorry.
I was just saying you got to be a very good driver to be able to buy that one. You got to be a good backer upper.
You get used to it. Yeah, you get used to it.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Moving to Camelia. Do you have anything?
No comments. Love the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Camelia. Heather?
Beautiful presentation. Thank you for that. My only comment is to the DRB staff. This manor house would be a great place for a DRB office or for an RA community area, something like that.
If you have to ride your bike too.
Exactly. We would love it. But it is a beautiful project. My question about the house was if there is a story to be told about the history of the house and how that might play into what you do on the site, or where there might be a plaque or an explanation of how did this site get to be like this, because that's one of the interesting things about Reston. So thank you for a beautiful presentation.
Oh, thank you for the kind words. And yes, neglected to mention, there will be historic signage throughout the site, certainly by the manor house as well as by the pond and gazebo. We also, our marketing and branding team really does a wonderful job of not recreating, but taking what is the natural integrity of a place and sort of telling that story, and so that will ultimately be part of our team's efforts, and so we're excited to be able to share more about the Bowen House.
Thank you.
Great comment, Heather, about the signage. So I think it's just me, unless Ramon joined, which I don't think he did. So I got a couple things. I'll go quickly. Mine are strictly architecture focused. My things with Gosday with the alleyways, these, you almost essentially have 4 stories of siding on the rear on these alleyways, and just finding ways to break it up. I do appreciate the turning of the material. I think in a couple of renderings they don't necessarily do that, but in some of the elevations they do show that. So I'm assuming that'll get worked out. If we go to slide 13, Steph, I think the side elevations are just the weaker of them all. I feel like that box on the top is just kind of ruining such good architecture from, the brick cornice down. And I don't know if you guys thought about looking at maybe even if you did a metal roof mansard or something that could break up the boxiness of just sticking a penthouse kind of on top of these things. I mean, these townhouses, that part has always kind of been a tricky architecture, a challenge, I know. And so I don't know if a mansard's the decision. I know I do that in a lot of historic districts where we add a 4th level and it kind of helps minimize the look. And I'm just talking about maybe on the end units, just because when we look at this elevation, you're going to be looking up from the trail, or as you approach the site, you have this beautiful courtyard, beautiful trees, beautiful everything. And then I just see these boxes up there. And I think the visual, if we saw some metal roofing or something, I think could potentially, take that away. I think it'd be great to incorporate more copper throughout the site and node to the pergola, or not, and node to the historic pavilion that's there. Whether it's copper lanterns or copper anything, I think could help break up what my next comment is with there's so much black and white. Um, I love the wood garage doors on the front because I think that helps break up the amount of black and white. And I know you're going off the color scheme from the Bowman House. Um, I'm just trying to find a way. The Bowman House is only so wide, and in here we have 7, 8 units wide. There's a lot of white, especially once again down those alleys. Is there a way? In the renderings they show black doors. I don't know. The alleys I'm not too worried about. Even the front facades, like if we go to wood front doors versus the black front doors, I add elements of copper. Is that going to help kind of break it up? And then I had comments about the lighting, and then my last thing is the parking. For these houses that all back to the alley, they have no way to park a car in other than the garage. And as we know, I would say 50% of these communities, if not more, people don't use the garages for cars. They use it for stuff. They use it for who knows what, but they don't put a car in there. And you guys don't have a ton of street parking, and there's really no street parking anywhere on Old Reston Avenue. There's only like the W&D trail lot, across the way. I'm a little worried about the parking situation, but that's just me, especially if I was a guest trying to come here. I know my mother-in-law lives in a similar community, and I'm always parking caddy corner in her, half driveway, and my car's sticking out half the way. So that would be the only thing. I know you guys did the one-way street to eliminate, paved area, which I appreciate. But to me, it just needs a little more parking somewhere because to me, it's inevitable that, you have something like 30 of the houses on this or over 30 on these on these alleyways, and no one, as soon as they have a guest over, I just don't know where they're going to park because people are going to be parking on the street. So that would be my only kind of comments, but great presentation overall, great design, great graphics. And we appreciate you guys coming tonight. And I think staff will write up a letter for you guys that essentially incorporates all of our comments. And then we send it over to Commissioner Carter and the P&Z board, and they take it from there. So appreciate you guys coming tonight.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you,
so much.
and I hope we didn't, because of our length, didn't bump somebody till the next meeting. So if there's
Hopefully not.
anybody behind us that we bump.
Luckily, we got to scratch a big item agenda off already, so we should be okay.
Good.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you guys for your flexibility once again.
Thanks for the time. Oh, and anytime. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to next in the agenda. We have agenda item H, which is 2258 Compass Point Lane. I am representing my client as the applicant, so I am actually going to be yielding the chair over to Mike Bianchino, who's going to take over from here for this application. I'm going to recuse myself from all conversation as we hear the appeal. So Mike B, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Just everybody understands we're going to be hearing appeal on this particular application. I think there are two separate items to hear, so I think what we'll do is take them, if I'm recalling this correctly from previous when we've had multiple appeal directions, we'll hear one and then the other, and see where we go from there. So you've got the first appeal up, which is, there we go, the 2257 Compass Point Lane. So at this point, I'm going to turn the floor over to the appellant so that they can present the nature of their appeal. And again, you're looking to present either a misapplied guideline or new information that has come to light that would be worthy of hearing the application de novo. So staff, were we able to identify the appellant?
Yes, I believe they are unmuted.
Thank you, Patrick.
We are.
Wonderful. So take it away. We will hear from you for a moment. We'll have some conversation here amongst ourselves as the board, and then we'll go from there. So by all means, take it away.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Mark Labgold. I appreciate the time and the consideration. I'm referring to the Design Review and Covenants Administration Resolution 10, and this is at Section 2, Affected Party, B, DRB criteria for considering affected party registration requests. Sub 3, question. Will the proposal significantly affect the privacy, view, value, structural integrity, natural environment, or peaceful enjoyment of the owner's property? And it continues on. Please note that the first thing that it is listed as being affecting the privacy before the view, the value, the structural integrity, or any of the other points, the privacy. Yet, when this was reviewed and we raised our privacy concern, we were told that the privacy is not something that the design review board could consider. With all due respect, and congratulations on your reelection, Mr. Wood said, quote, privacy is not our concern, close quote. The same sentiment was voiced by the other members of the board. We're really sorry, but we can't attend to the privacy. That's not something that we consider. I mean, obviously, the placement of the homes, and it was so good to hear the comments on the last project, that there was concerns about with the alleyway and how the windows being staggered or stacked, excuse me, not my area of expertise by any stretch, on the architecture side. But the idea that people could actually have the full enjoyment of their home without having to worry about their neighbors having a direct view into their homes. And as the placement of the homes on this lake have been, as originally designed, despite the fact that we all have pretty remarkable views, we don't look into each other's houses. Now, our concern is particularly with regard to the fact that as you look at the existing, and I know you guys have all the documents at your fingertips, I'm sure, in the existing 3D views, the top picture of which shows that there's a window. It's a square window from my perspective. And I don't know if you have, I see someone
Julie,
flipping.
are we looking for the rendering, sir? Is that what you were
Yes.
referencing?
Yes.
66, Julie.
And specifically looking at, oh, yep, that's the 2B. And if you go back two
So
others,
go up one more. Yeah.
I think it's 2. Okay, right there. So if you look at the shaded area, our home would be, if we go down, we're on the other side. So the top picture. There we go.
Zoom back out. Yeah, there you go. Now you're
There we go. Okay, so looking at the shaded face that was facing the house next to, that's us, 2257, and you see the hashed out square window on the side. Right now, where that is, when I'm standing at my toilet, even though there's a window there, I do not look into that window, and that window does not look into my bathroom. When you go and now go 2 slides ahead, please. Oh, we're going backwards.
Other way. Other way.
Okay, one more. Now at the top of that one. Right there.
Right there.
So now that taller window, the rectangular window on the side, W1, W2. So again, on the shaded area, yep, that's the one. So that's actually moved out in perspective towards the lake. So that window, which is offset from our bathroom window, is now going to be moved towards the lake, and we'll have a direct view of it, and it'll have a direct view of us. Same thing with the bedrooms, the bathrooms upstairs. Again, the idea, we bring this appeal because of the fact, as I started off with it, is that our privacy concern was totally dismissed because it's not something that the design review board supposedly is supposed to be dealing with when the rules say quite the contrary. So that's our primary issue. We've raised the other issue is that we believe that the request is not in compliance with our local cluster rules with regard to the need for 2 neighbor signatures, because none of the neighbors' signatures have been received because there's apparently in lieu of provision that you can just send it by certified mail, and that somehow obviates our need to sign anything. But That's our point. And thank you for your
Okay.
consideration.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm gonna hear this bit. So I'm gonna go around the room to the folks who are on the board, excuse me, who were not on the board that reviewed this previously, if that makes sense. Yes, as I'm thinking aloud. So, Julie, can you do me a favor as we kind of unpack this a little bit? Zoom out to give me this page, and then what I'd love to see you do, like
Yep.
just give me and then be able to click between 65 and 66. Because again, we're looking at the top view, right? And you're on page 66, and now flip to 65 without scrolling. Just boom, boom, back and forth between the image. Does that make sense?
Oh, like this and this.
Boom. Just there you go. See
Okay.
that? That's exactly
Yeah,
what
sorry.
I was
gonna
hoping for.
extract the page for you to just flip
Nope.
back and forth. I can just do that.
Don't bother.
Okay.
You're good. That's
Sounds good.
exactly what I
Yep.
wanted. So, the nature of what you were just talking about, sir, and again, just so that I can reset it. Start me with 65, Julie. Is that window?
Yes.
Go ahead to 65. Don't scroll. I want to be able to flip right back and forth. The hashed out double window there, now flip to 66. Bang, is going to be, by nature of this new addition, you're saying that window sliding forward is the nature of your privacy concern, correct? You can unmute you can unmute, let him
Sorry, I was
respond to the
muted.
question. That's fine.
Yes,
That's fine.
but you nailed it, 100%.
Okay. So just so we're clear amongst us board members. So, all right. So let me go around, and this is a question for, I think, Patrick, you were kind of steering it a little bit here. The folks who are going to be engaged in the conversation here, stop me if I'm having conversations with folks who are going to need to recuse themselves from this particular one. So at this juncture, let me just go to Emily, since I saw her smiling face a minute ago. Did you have thoughts or questions, ma'am?
So I do on this one. I know when we've reviewed this previously, I guess my consideration is, and as much as Julie might hate the fact that we're going to make her drive all over creation, I think it's page 51 and 52 are those are the photos in this application from the appellant's house towards this area. Can we go to those?
You want me to do the same thing, flip back and forth?
No, I think we can just show here. So I guess my understanding, and this is more of a question for the appellant, is these photos obviously are from the interior of your home, and it looks like they're from multiple levels. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the assertion is that, instead of being offset as we had discussed them, that even though you can take a photo down and you could direct your gaze and look directly into your neighbor's house if you chose to do so, now it's almost in alignment so you look straight out. Am I paraphrasing more or less correctly?
Well, what the perspective would be, if I have it, can see from where it is, if you look at the picture in the middle, just imagine that window that you're seeing, that picture and the one below it, you get a better view as well. Those two pictures, if you just imagine, you're going to move, by my humble estimations of the measurements, that new window is going to be in the tree space right at the end of the existing deck. It moves it from a corner of the window directly into that facing space. Do you see what I'm referring to?
Yes, that does sort of answer my question. I think summarize it. I understand the driver behind the privacy issue more than perhaps we did previously. But that being said, I don't think I have any other questions or comments. I just wanted to make sure, once again, that we were all on the same page. So
Totally understand.
Give the floor back to you.
Just trying to make sure we all understand what we're talking about here. So
Yep.
I'm right there with you. Okay, awesome. Let's see. Next one, as I scroll my list here, would be Samantha. Samantha, did you have comments, questions?
I do not have a comment on question. I believe I was with Emily reviewing this project, and I look at the package as well as the statement. I do not find any information is new to me.
Okay. All right.
That will be all.
Thank you. How about you, Heather? Thoughts?
My question's really for you, Mike, or for staff, which is exactly what do we need to be voting on first here?
So we're talking specifically about the nature of this appeal, whether or not there is a misapplied guideline or additional or new information, right? Whereby we would want to go back and hear this thing de novo.
And I've heard that there's not new information, but that the appellant is arguing that the guideline was misapplied. Okay.
That is my understanding. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Gazde?
So, I mean, I'm kind of, in a way, confused that there is a window there that looks into it. What is the bathroom situation? Is this the bathroom you're looking at, and you're going to be seeing into their bedroom now? Are
Correct.
you concerned about their privacy or yours?
Ours.
Okay. So if there was
I'm
no
not-
window on that facade, like existing window in that facade, or that there wouldn't be any new window there, you'd be okay with the addition?
That my concern is with the window. That's my privacy concern.
But for example, I'm not trying to be difficult on that end, but I'm trying to understand, like when I buy a house, now I go around who's looking at me, which window is present and which window is not present, for example, but that window is there right now. So the eye doesn't see right like this because you're in an angled position, in any window, depending on where you're looking, you can see a lot of stuff. So if they move the window back to this position, you're okay with that?
Yeah, if the windows doesn't move, we're not trying to say that there's a problem with the existing condition. What the problem is the way it's currently being designed, it's going to move the window directly into a direct line eyesight. Obviously, go ahead.
So, yeah,
Which I totally understand. And Gazde, where I want to make sure that we're clear here is I don't want to get into a reanalyzing the design in this instance, right?
No,
So-
I'm not. I'm just
Okay.
trying to understand the nature of the
Right.
appeal. Is this a new piece of information that didn't, exist? So
No, no.
what do we vote on, right? So
No, it was there.
Well, it's not new information. This is a misapplied guideline is what we're arguing at currently.
misapplied guideline. And the
Yeah.
misapplied guideline is that that the board or panel did not get concerned about this.
The privacy concern is
Okay.
the nature of this particular appeal.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Well, my position is, I'm not trying to change the design or anything like that. What I'm trying
Sure.
to understand is that, there's a window there, it just moves a couple feet, I think I just don't, anyway, so I don't think there's a misapplied rule in my position because I don't think they're building towards their house to come close to their house. On that land to come really near their window to be face to face. It's in there within the same facade. In my opinion, reviewing this is not a misapplied guideline. There is a window there. It's not like someone's opening up a solid wall and facadizing the whole thing. So
Yep.
I'm okay with
Okay.
this. Mhm.
All right. Let me keep going, see if anybody else had some questions. Brian, you were next in terms of my faces.
I think in terms of trying to understand the notion of a misapplied guideline, I've been reading Resolution 10 that's referenced and the notion of the privacy concerns. And I'm reading Resolution 10 a little bit differently. It's not a guideline. Resolution 10 is more like a procedural document of who classifies as an affected party and who classifies as like an interested party or something like that. So I don't read it in the sense that like that the privacy is not taken into consideration because the privacy or gosh, I'm sorry, I lost it. Whether the property is materially affected, I mean, you've been able to apply as an affected party and be heard. So I'm just having a different read on this as like not so much a guideline in the resolution, which I do think was followed to get us to this point. So I'm not so sure yet.
Okay.
If I see a misapplied guideline.
Understood. I appreciate it. Ramon, we did not have with us, and I don't think I've seen him scrolling through. But is Camelia?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
I have
beautiful.
no questions. I have all that I need to vote on this appeal.
Okay, awesome. A closing comment from Mike B. I mean, the space that we're seeing that is to be enclosed as a result of the future project. Again, there's nothing that stops me from standing in that space now. Correct? That is balcony space. I'm seeing a chair. I mean, yeah, I think we're there. I would listen. I would hear a motion if somebody had one. Anybody feel like a motion?
I think Brian is still evaluating that.
Oh,
Well, Emily was ready for a motion, but we can hear a motion and Brian can offer additional commentary. Doesn't mean somebody seconds it either. So
I will make a motion to deny the appeal based on the fact that I do not believe there was either a misapplied guideline or new information on this particular application.
on this particular appeal, correct? Is that what I heard?
Correct. Yes, on this particular appeal.
I second that.
Gazde with a second. All right. We've had a motion. We've had a second. Brian, not to put you on the spot, was there additional commentary or discussion from your standpoint?
No further discussion. No.
LaShonda has her hand up. Yes, ma'am. I will recognize you.
Thank you. For the appeal, Emily was on the original reviewing panel.
Can I have the names of the folk who were on the original panel?
It was Samantha and Emily. So
Emily and Samantha, which leaves us, after we take Mr. Wood out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5, so we're okay. So we still don't have Ramon, correct?
that is correct.
Okay. So that invalidates Emily's motion since she is excluded from the fund. That is totally fine.
Forgot how rules work.
That's so I would be interested in an alternative motion here in the event that we were to hear one. Gazde, you had seconded the previous.
Yes, what is the alternative motion?
Literally the same motion. I just need someone else to have made it. That was my point.
Yes, I just don't remember exactly Emily's words, but I don't think there's a misapplied guideline here, and we should deny the appeal based on
that.
That
was sufficient. That was sufficient. So that's a motion. Mike B will second. So there is a motion and a second. I'll pause at this moment. Anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up? Otherwise, I will take the vote. All right, let's go down the line here. So Heather, how do you vote?
Aye.
What was that? One more time?
Yes. Yes.
Yay. Okay. Gazde, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Brian?
I am the vote. I made the motion.
I still got to do it. Brian?
Yes.
Yes. Mike B is a yes. And Camelia?
No.
Didn't hear you, Camelia. Could you repeat?
Sorry, I said no.
Camelia votes no. Okay, so that's 4-1 on denying the appeal with 5 members voting. I believe that passes, that carries, but I'm going to have to ask a question there just for clarity since we have reduced numbers. May I ask a question? Does that carry? Does that appeal officially be denied as a result of a 4-1 with Mr. Wood recusing himself and Ramon not in attendance? And I suppose that
Is
question
that,
was,
is that for me or is that for Tony?
I would ask if you have the answer for me, LaShonda, I'll take it. Otherwise, I will direct my question officially to Tony.
No, I believe that it is officially passed.
All right. I suppose our esteemed Mr. Tony Champ will jump in if I am incorrect, but I will now move over to the second piece of the appeal. Can we go to them?
There is a Richard in the chat. Could
I
you
have
please?
asked them to unmute, although I'm not 100% sure it's the right.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if this
So-
is for item H or L.
I see someone waving rather strongly, so I'm wondering if that's them.
Yes, I believe.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Mr. Champ.
Okay.
I
that's
apologize.
us.
I was having an issue with getting my microphone on. Point of order, the last motion failed as 4-1-3. Abstentions are considered no votes because it is a majority of those members present. Having said that, if there is not a motion to affirmatively hear the appeal dies on the vine.
Roger that. Thank you very much for the clarification. We sincerely appreciate it. At this juncture, my intention would be to hear the second appeal here and see where we go. So thank you again, Tony. I really appreciate the assistance. All right. So we did find the right folk to talk about the second phase. All right. Beautiful. So you just heard us do the first round. Want to walk us through the nature of your appeal, and we will pop in with questions and go from there.
Right. This is a completely different thing. After the first panel a month ago, the former president of the Compass Point Cluster Association pointed out to me there was a deed that might be relevant to the question of the proposal. So looking at the deed, which I submitted, you've got all of it. Basically, to summarize, the deed says that no improvements can be made if the improvements would interfere with the view of Lake Audubon from any of the lots in blocks 1, B, and C. The proposal does not address whether or not the enclosure would interfere with lots 9 and 10 of Lake Audubon. So there's several questions involved, and I think it's a legal issue because the deed, one of the parties to the deed is the Compass Point Cluster Association. So I'm in a strange position. I happen to be the president of it, but I'm representing, I basically contacted one of your representatives in my role as president to point out there's this information, this deed. Then, so there's the question of, term, what does it mean to interfere? And the question is, who makes that determination? Does the cluster make that? Does the individual do that? And the other question is, does the cluster have standing in this, given this is a deed in which the cluster is one of the parties to the deed? So I'm throwing that out there. I don't have the answers. I'm raising more questions.
However, I would like to point out, in case that wasn't obvious, is that the Lab Golds who went before us are on one side and we are on the other side. So we are both the next door neighbors to this proposed
But what I'm raising doesn't have to do with being next door neighbors.
I'm saying because it does block a lot of our light and the trees and the sky when you're looking up right here in our dining room. So that's why I was initially against this whole addition. But then this other legal instrument has come up.
So but the bottom line is the new information. There's a deed. A deed is a legal document and it is controlled. And if you go to page 5 of the deed, you'll find, keep on going, page 2 more. On page, you're too far, page 5. So there's, I think that's 6. One
Go
further.
down one.
Okay, the language is, the middle of that, and it's hard to,
Party of the.
right.
This one, 3.
It's slide 7, Julie. It's
Okay,
slide
slide
7.
7, that's
It's
the
the
problem.
5th page of the deed is slide
Right,
7.
right.
And then most of the way down.
Okay,
There you
so
go.
it's number 1.
Yep.
No fences or other structures or improvements other than the improvements erected by the party of the first part, as shown in the site plans, that's the houses that were built, shall be erected on any lot if such structure or improvement would interfere with a view of Lake Audubon from any of the 10 lots in blocks 1B and 1C.
Which is us.
Which is, and what I pointed out is lots 9 and 10 are up on the hill, and I have not been in their house, but there has not been any consideration whether or not it would interfere with their view of the lake. And that's a legal document, and that was not considered. And that's the new information I'm bringing up.
Okay. I appreciate it. Do you have any other comment? Otherwise, I'll roll through my members here and see if anybody had any
No,
questions or
but if
comments
I
here.
want to react, could you keep my speaker on? Or if somebody asks a question.
Sure. Understood. For what it's worth, I mean, while I appreciate the information here, I get it. We, the DRB, this body, we are not a deed enforcement body, right? This is not necessarily within what we are focused on and trying to interpret and put forth and recommend and provide guidance on, right? Now, I hear what you said. I'm with you. Just trying to be clear and help you understand where we, members of this body, are trying to go. Okay.
But just as clarification.
Sure.
The Reston Association is one of the parties to the deed, or the Reston. It's on page 1. The Reston Homeowners Association. I assume that's the Reston Association. Would that be correct?
Again, what I'm trying to get to you is that we are not deed enforcement, right? We are not.
I understand, but you're a party to the deed.
So I'm now going to talk to the members on the board here with regard to any questions they might have associated with this, and then we will come back to you. Okay. So let me roll around here. So we still don't have a Ramon, so let me go to Brian.
Yeah, I remain confused on kind of what we're evaluating here, because I agree. I guess I'm just certainly not used to looking at deed language when it comes to looking at additions and renovations and things like that. So I feel a little bit out of my element here. But I guess I forgot this was a cluster. So this does fall a bit under kind of cluster governance, in my opinion. At least one of those things where we obviously try really hard not to supersede what the cluster does. I mean, that's why clusters are set up with their own kind of guidelines and governing documents and things like that. So it's difficult to take a position on that if the cluster hasn't taken one. So I'm not trying. I know that's not super helpful, but I'm a bit I'm at a bit of a loss here.
Fair enough. No additional questions for you though in this particular instance, right?
No.
You understand the nature of what's being brought. I'm with you. Okay, so let me go over. Camelia, do you have any questions, comments?
I don't. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. How about you, Gazday?
I have one question. This language in here, what I'm looking at from any of it says lake, I'm just trying to understand the deed language. So that's a question regarding that. Improvements would interfere with the view of Lake Audubon from any of the 10 lots in blocks 1B, 1C. Where is 1B, 1C?
1B and 1C.
That's irrelevant. We're looking at lot 5. Is that it? Or from lots 5, 6,
No,
7?
lots 9 and 10, and I don't know if it's
Well, hold on.
showing up here.
This
What I can tell
application
you-
is lot
tell
5,
you
isn't
is-
it? Is it
Right,
lot
what I
5?
can tell you is there are two houses above, up on a hill that look down to the lake, which have a view of 2258 and 2257 and that in the lake. I don't know if we could get you a drawing. I'm raising this as new information that wasn't
So
considered.
can you go to, hold on a minute. I'm trying to understand where are we, right? So that's
Okay.
not, I don't know your deed very well. And okay, please go to slide 21. Yeah, so where is the disputed, this lot is lot 5, is it?
Yeah, it is lot 6.
That is
No,
2257.
I'm sorry. No,
No,
it says lot 5.
it's lot 5.
It's lot 5.
Okay, so the deed language does call out lot 5 or not?
Yes, it says the lots, it calls lots 1 through 10.
Which is our cluster.
The cluster,
Okay,
because
the
it's
total
composed of lots
cluster.
1 through
Okay, got
10.
it. So I'm trying to understand what is
So
exactly.
lot 5 is down on the lake, and then lot 10 and lot 9 are up on the hill behind. And actually, so is another lot. I can't quite see which one.
But they're not
And-
relevant
yeah.
to this.
Okay.
Okay, I'm kind of, yeah. So is it interfering with lot 10's view? No.
Well, that's
Okay,
the question
yeah.
that has not been.
We don't know.
It has
Yeah,
not
yeah,
been
okay, so-
considered.
We're just looking at it,
we
is
are
this
not
relevant?
deed
Mhm.
enforcement.
Right,
I want to be
okay.
very clear here. We are not deed enforcement.
No,
Okay.
yeah, is this
Is there
new
is there
information?
new information relative to the application in question to be considered
I
here?
believe this would be relevant.
Okay.
That's
So I'm moving
where I
on to
stand. That's what
okay.
I'm trying to understand here.
Okay. Understood. Did you have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna keep this moving because we're
Yeah, no, I don't have.
okay. Samantha, questions, comments?
No questions. To me, this is new information.
Okay. Emily, how about yourself?
No questions, thank you.
Heather, anything you want to bring up here?
No, thank you.
All right. Mike B doesn't have any other comments, and I'm just going to pause here for a moment and ask staff if we had a Ramon sighting or not.
Could you repeat the question?
Did we have a Ramon sighting?
Oh, no, Ramon's not going to be joining us this evening.
All right. Officially, I didn't know if he was popping in or not, so that was hence the question why I was pausing for Ramon. Okay. So I don't have any other comments myself. Anybody got any additional thoughts or anybody feel like making a motion here?
I'm not allowed to make a motion, right? Because I was the one that, even
No.
if it's in the positive, okay.
We're going to keep this nice and clean, Emily.
Just take
We're
a
gonna keep
break,
this nice and
Emily.
clean. Yeah, you get to sit down for a minute. Go for a soda. You're all right. For the record, just because I want to be very clear here, I believe it's Samantha and Emily who are going to take this one off.
And Michael.
And Michael.
And obviously, he was recusing himself from the get-go. My note page is getting a lot of scratches on it right now. I might have to go to a second color. I didn't hear a motion yet. Anybody interested?
I have a question. I have a procedural
Fire
question.
away.
Because I have not experienced this yet as a DRB member. If we agree to the appeal on the basis of new information, does the entire case get reheard and everything get reheard, or okay, let's
in
not
that
just nodding.
particular,
Okay.
yes, we would hear the application again de novo as though we were hearing it the first time. So. Gazda, you found yourself in a place that felt pretty pretty clear? You felt like you were getting close?
I mean, this is the situation. As I read this, and it says no fences or other structures, because it's kind of like a broad language. That's how I read it. I don't know how lawyer reads it, so I was hoping maybe Tony can weigh in for that language. But we're not deed enforcers, but when I'm reading this, no fences or other structures within the community, right, or improvements other than the improvements to be erected by the party of the first part to be plans filed with Fairfax County. So site plans filed with Fairfax County. So what it says to me when I read it, and I may be wrong on that, but it does say that like you can't really make any improvements, put something else and all that. Whatever we submitted to Fairfax County when we're building this, you can't really improve, add anything to these structures. That's how it reads to me.
Well,
if I want
right,
to read
but
it. So that would be a new information for me that I wouldn't have reviewed, previously, which if that's their deed, I can't enforce their deed. That's what you're saying. I hear you.
What I'm getting at is
Yeah.
the nature of the deed, right? What is written in regardless of the words on that piece of paper, right? Does that inform how you would have reviewed this application such that you feel as though this is new information pertinent to the application that we need to accept the appeal, hear the thing de novo? If it's meeting that muster for you, feels like you're moving towards a motion. If you have a specific legal question that you'd like, I mean, we can make a motion to go to executive session. You could ask that question.
Yeah, the question is that, like I've never had to review a deed for, a DRB. This is design review board. We're architects, we're not lawyers in that respect, right? So I don't know whether or not this is, this deed. So anyway, I don't have a lot of information. But if someone in the community, to me, this speaks to that. Like in my community, somebody wanted to build out a deck and it was in our deeds and covenants and all that kind of stuff, then you wouldn't be able to do it, right? So that's how I'm actually looking at it, that if they are saying as a community of 10 houses cluster are not allowing anybody to make expansions to their project, residences, then that's that, right? So then why are we even reviewing it? They can just in their own community give, don't give signatures and in the beginning. So I'm a little confused on that. Like, why are we on the appeal part? Why wasn't this coming up in the beginning of that, but that's why I'm a little bit torn. So I could move, make a motion to approve the appeal.
To accept the appeal, I think I heard you say.
Yes, accept the appeal based on this piece of information.
As being what? New information?
As being the number one on that, whatever page. There are no page numbers on my copy, but that says no fences or other structures or improvements.
Gazda, if I may, your motion is whether or not this is a misapplied guideline or new information, right?
New information.
Rising to the level that we are.
That's right.
So
I'm
point
sorry.
being, your motion is,
My
if you would,
motion
restate it
is
for clarity.
My motion is to accept the appeal as new information is presented in this deed document.
Okay. There's a motion out there. Is there a second? Pausing again. We have a motion. Have not heard a second. Last call, and that motion dies on the vine. Okay.
Can I
All
make
right,
a
that motion.
motion?
Yeah, that motion dies. So that motion dies, and Heather, or was that Heather? I thought.
Yes.
Heather, you
I
can make a fresh motion.
I would move to deny the appeal on the grounds that the information presented is not pertinent new information to the design review board's process.
That is a motion. Do I have a second?
Come on, guys, y'all got to pick a side.
Pausing.
I'll second it.
I think I heard Brian second that one. I'm
Yeah.
scrolling through faces here faster than I can faster than I can
Second
pause. So we got a motion, we got a second from Brian. Any additional discussion at this point? Otherwise, I'm going to call a roll call here because it's a doozy. So again, the motion is to deny the appeal. We don't feel as though this is new information. I will.
Pertinent new
I
information.
I heard the word. I heard the word. All right, let me roll down the line. Camelia, yay or nay? Yes or no?
Yay. Yay.
All right, that's a yay from her. All right, Brian, not to put you on the spot, but you were next.
Yay.
Gazday.
Yes. Yay.
Okay. Samantha is abstaining. Heather.
Yay.
Mike B says yay. All right, so that's 5-0, and we have 1, 2, 3 abstentions. There we go. And Ramon is absent. All right, so appeals are concluded on this particular application. Staff, Patrick, since you were kind of the master of show here, was that concluding our business on this particular application for application H? And at this juncture, I believe, unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to relinquish command and turn it back over to Chairman Wood.
I only had 2 appeal requests that I can see, and I believe we've handled both.
Okay, 10-4. Chairman Wood, back to you, good sir.
All right. Thank you, Mike B. Moving on in our agenda, we have up next application I, which is 1638 Waters Edge Lane. We have an appeal. I don't know if the appellant will be speaking or if their lawyer will be speaking. But if you guys, I don't know if you guys have been able to identify them.
Mrs. Riley is here and
Yes, good afternoon. I mean, good evening. Hi.
I was gonna say I'm ready for bed.
I've lost track of time, respectfully. I'm listening in here.
All right. Are you going to be presenting on the behalf of your client?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, great. So as you heard previously, you guys are appealing our decision. So you guys need to provide new information or misapplied guidelines. So feel free to take it away.
Yes, and thank you. Good evening, board members, for your time tonight. My name is Kristen Riley from Combs and Taylor on behalf of the owner of 1638 Waters Edge. One portion of our appeal has been mooted relating to the mesh landscape barrier. In the spirit of compromise, the owner has voluntarily removed that. So there's only one issue from our original appeal that remains ripe for tonight's decision. And that is the discrete issue of whether a now county approved, as of yesterday, engineer designed safety railing installed as part of a seawall stabilization project can properly be treated as a prohibited aesthetic feature, specifically a fence under the design guidelines. And we respectfully submit that the evidence before the board shows that it cannot. This represents an issue of both misapplied guidelines and new evidence since the time of application. Specifically, the safety railing in question at their home must remain because it serves both a legitimate life safety function under Virginia Building Code standards, and it does not represent an impermissible fence pursuant to the guidelines. Just as a little bit of background, and hopefully you were able to read our letter in support of the appeal, but this is a very unique property with a unique safety condition. It's, as far as we know, the only known property in the community that has a patio, which predates the owner's purchase, that directly abuts the seawall and the lake edge of Lake Anne. This is not a standard flat rear yard. There's fluctuating water levels, there was erosion conditions and sloped shoreline conditions directly abutting this exposed hardscape that presented a direct drop from the patio into the lake. So the safety concerns here are fundamentally different from elsewhere in the community. Further, what was lost in the initial decision, I think, is that this structure is categorically not a fence. It doesn't meet any of the definitions of a fence. It does not enclose any sort of portion of land. It does not define a boundary or keep persons or other things out. It instead functions as a protective barrier against a dangerous drop that is required, again, by the Virginia Building Code to any structure or landscape and hardscape that abuts water that is at least 30 inches deep. So again, it was not installed for any sort of privacy or aesthetics, but to address a real and foreseeable fall hazard that is required by the Virginia Code and Fairfax County. So removing it now would create an obvious danger to residents and also illegality under Virginia law. The specific code in mind, I mean, I think we will all agree that both Virginia law and the association bylaws and governing documents throughout the association prioritize safety. The Virginia Uniform Standard Building Code expressly states that its entire purpose is for the health, safety, and welfare of Virginia residents. And likewise, the amended Reston Association bylaws identify the promotion of peace, health, comfort, and safety of the residents as one of their main objectives. And so with keeping with those safety objections, the Virginia Residential Code section R312.1.1, which is cited in our papers, requires safety guards where walking surfaces present heights differentials of at least 30 inches. And these provisions exist specifically to prevent dangerous falls. The site conditions here support that safety necessity. At the time when the owner was doing seawall reconstruction based on significant erosion conditions, the owner at that time became aware that the drop from the patio to the lake bottom exceeded that applicable threshold requiring fall protection under section 312.11. And importantly, although it has been stated without any proof by the mooring subcluster submission that we received, there was no grade that was artificially raised to create any sort of code trigger. To the contrary, stone gravel had to be put in as part of the seawall construction just so that the construction workers had a place to stand. But the level there is such that it varies depending on obviously conditions with weather and how much water is in there, but it's a severely sloped property. And in fact, even at one point, you can see that there are 3 8-inch boards that go horizontal down. And in one portion of the seawall, only 2 can be seen because the other are submerged underwater. So there is a need for a requirement under the code. And this reconstruction simply exposed an existing condition that required that this safety railing be placed by law. So the owner appropriately acted and installed that railing. And the building code must be interpreted consistently with that overriding safety purpose. Even if there are, slight deviations through time and weather that make it 29 inches and 31 in another, the overall scheme of the area requires that this safety railing be in place because of this unique stone patio that has been there before the owner even was the current owner. And then furthermore, since the original application, Fairfax County engineers and professionals have reviewed the actual site conditions and approved the project, including the railing itself, and deemed it a necessary safety item. This was not some sort of, the permit that was issued yesterday, which I hope you did receive via email, which we just received today by Fairfax County, expressly authorized the rebuilding of the seawall with the railing as a requirement to have that. And so this was not a ministerial process. This underwent extensive engineering review, multiple correction cycles, structural review, special inspections. The county fully evaluated this project and approved it as necessary and code compliant. Finally, as I mentioned, or separately, as I mentioned, on May 15th, the engineer from the Soil and Structure Consulting confirmed in writing that the railing was incorporated specifically to satisfy life safety and fall protection requirements and not as an optional architectural feature. He further confirmed that removal could place the property out of compliance with approved engineering requirements. So practically speaking, it's doubtful that even a licensed contractor in Virginia here would agree to remove a known code required safety feature that needs to be in place as long as that patio is there, which again is something that, you know, the owner did not even put in and is just reacting to having it be there. And more importantly, really, I mean, I think we all want to, you know, make sure that safety prevails here, and requiring removal of a structure that has been specifically required by such safety standards really exposes the association to an unnecessary and avoidable liability should there ever be a fall, an injury occurred that, you know, they decided had to be removed. And just very briefly, I'd like to speak on regarding the after the fact application issue here. At the time of the installation, the owner here relied on neighboring experiences with similar waterfront safety railings where advance approval had not been required. But again, regardless, requiring such an unsafe condition to remain solely because of a procedural step was imperfectly handled would be inconsistent with the board's broader obligation to promote safety here and follow the Virginia Building Code. Finally, I would just like to say that this is also consistent with community standards. This is not a fence, as we've mentioned. It doesn't meet any of the criteria of a fence. And there are similar cable style waterfront railings and structures existing throughout the association. And that specific cable design preserves open sight lines to the water. It minimizes any sort of visual impact and really balances the safety, functionality, and aesthetics. And if you look down towards, I think it's maybe Exhibit G, where you can see the from the house. Let's see if you can. There's a picture taken from the house where you can barely even see the that is a deck on another property, but I think it's the one right after that. If you scroll down, not up. Yeah, this is the house. You can barely see the safety railing in question. It was specifically once it had been, or maybe it's one up from that, excuse me. Here's another one where you can see it. I mean, you can barely see it because once it became known that this was a railing that was needed per Virginia code to rebuild that wall, the seawall, the owners did everything that they could to maintain the integrity of the neighborhood so that there weren't any sight lines that were unsightly, and really wanted to preserve the natural aesthetics that the community values. So in closing, there's no evidence here that this railing creates, that the railing is in any way a fence that is in derogation of any of the applicable standards. There's no express prohibition against safety railings within the governing documents, nor could there legally be given the requirements in the code that they exist. There's overwhelming evidence here that this serves an important life safety function, and therefore, what the board is effectively being asked to do, if it allows the original decision to stand, is override county-approved life-saving measures based solely on, subjective views that this is a fence, when I think the evidence shows that it is not. And for these reasons, we respectfully ask that the appeal be granted and that the safety railing be permitted to remain in compliance with Virginia law. And I thank you for your time and welcome any questions that you have.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Riley.
You're welcome.
I want to ask staff a question. We'll come and ask you questions if we have any. I have a couple questions for Tony that I think would be potentially best for executive session. Tony, are you fine with that? Are you okay if I put us into executive session to ask you a couple things?
That'd be my preference.
All right. I motion to move us to executive session where we will be discussing only matters pertaining to this application.
And
Please.
consulting with legal counsel.
While we chat with legal counsel, yes. Thank you, Tony.
Second.
And do I hear all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes 8-0. All right, we'll be right back, guys.
Mhm. میگه با لیگال کانسل دارن حرف میزنن، میگه it's a good sign. به من میگه
All right, we are back. Thank you for your patience. Tony, could you help me with the cleansing motion, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I believe I heard you say something along the lines of that you move that the members of the Design Review Board affirm that only those matters appropriate for executive session involving consultation with legal counsel were heard or considered in executive session.
I did motion that. Do I hear a second?
Second from Mike B.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes 8-0, and we're back. Just for the record, a couple things after talking with counsel, we thought it'd be wise. I'm gonna disclose. I can't vote on the appeal anyway because I was on the panel, but I'm disclosing that I work with the soil and structure engineer Ken Frayne quite often, and so I'm just disclosing that for the record.
I'd also echo that for disclosure purposes. I do also work with Soil and Structure and Ken Frayne.
That was Emily Inglis for the record, and Michael Wood. All right, so back to the appeal. We are here to decide whether there is any new information or a misapplied guideline. The appellant is saying that there's some new information. Does anyone have any questions for the appellant? And I just want to make sure the appellant is unmuted so we can ask her any questions as they come up. And then as a reminder, myself and Brian cannot vote on this appeal because we are the ones who were on the panel. Ramon is not here. He was also on the panel. Samantha, did you have any questions for the appellant?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Gazde, did you have any questions for the appellant?
I only have the question that I believe the cluster people are here. Is this, is this approved by their cluster?
It's not. I don't think we can ask that right now.
Okay.
We have their statement that they submitted to as part of the appeal. Their rebuttal to it.
Okay.
But that's the extent of what we can hear from them. The process just allows us to hear from the appellant at this stage.
And I'd be happy to address their rebuttal, which I will note, I guess, for the record, that we never received a copy of that. I'm not sure what your notice procedures are, but until it was posted with the agenda today, but I'm happy to speak to any points of their rebuttal. Most of it, which largely was kind of a red herring on issues that really aren't before the board tonight on an appeal. But if there's specific questions on that, I'd be happy to address them.
I guess we can ask you, guys, that you could ask the appellant the question that
I'm okay. I'm okay. The thing before us is not relevant to that. Yeah.
Okay.
We just need
All
to.
right. Okay. Mike B, did you have any questions for the appellant?
Negative, sir. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Emily? Emily?
I said no questions for me.
Oh, you're sorry. If I already asked you, sorry. I just think maybe you're on mute. Camelia, did you have any questions?
Thank you.
And Heather?
No, thank you.
All right. I don't either. Brian, I skipped you. Sorry. Do you have any questions? Not that you can really vote, but you may have something.
No questions.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion on the appeal on the basis of new information?
I'll make a motion to deny the appeal. There is no new information on this application.
Okay. There's a motion from Emily. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
There's a second from Samantha. All right. Is there any further discussion? I'm going to do a roll call vote. All right. Samantha, do you vote yay or nay?
Yay.
Gazde?
Yay.
Brian abstains. Mike B?
Mike B's a yay.
Emily? Emily?
Yay. Sorry, I guess there's a lag between when I unmute.
Yeah, I think there's a little lag. Camelia?
Yay.
And Heather?
Yay.
All right, the motion to deny the appeal passes 6-0-2. Thank you for your time. All right, moving on to application J, which we nixed, application K, which we nixed, so I can remove these from my screen. All right, on to agenda item L, 2359 Tumbletree Way. We have a application here for a single family renovation, an addition, pool, landscaping plan. Is the applicant here, and I see the architect for the applicant as well. If you guys could acknowledge them, please. And just for the record, I know Heather is having to leave right now, but we
We're
still
here.
maintain a 7-member panel, so we are good to continue. Thank you, Heather, for joining. All right, so on application L, you guys feel free to take it away. Staff is driving. Whoever is presenting first, go right ahead into it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's us.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, thank you. Thanks for keeping us and not bumping us to the next month. It's been a while since we've been trying to get on here. We are renovating our house. We've been Reston residents for over 24 years. We lived in North Reston, sold our house, been members of RSTA, swim club, all of that. Raised our kids here, and we love South Reston and have built or bought a house in South Reston. And we want to basically make this a renovated home that's going to be our forever home. And so, you know, we have a little bit of a Danish design that is incorporated into it. And so we have a team of architect and, of course, contractors who have contracted with us to make this happen. My wife, if she wants to say anything.
Oh, we have our landscaper, Shane Fagan. He's with us tonight too. And I know it's been a long night for all of you, and we thank you so much. We have attached all the pictures, and I hope that if you guys have any questions or anything, please go ahead and ask. And
yeah, we want to thank LaShonda. LaShonda's got us prepared for this. It was like, I think it was a lot of information that was being requested, but I actually understand that there's a very thorough process to this. So we hope that we have been thorough and had enough due diligence for the board.
Okay, I'll jump in now. I'm Richard Newland. I'm the architect for this project. Just a couple of clarifications on the agenda. This is listed as an infill and a swimming pool. What we're trying to do here, it's in a neighborhood that's probably 40, 50 years old, and we're trying to come up with a new concept. Mrs. Taylor is from Denmark and very much in love with contemporary architecture, so we're trying to respond to that in what we're doing. The existing house is a split level, a splancher, as you say, a one-story section connected to a two-story section. We're only increasing the footprint of the house 300 square feet. As you stand on French Horn Drive, which is on the long side of the house, in the picture in the upper right-hand corner, we're extending the house 10 feet to the right. So we're only adding 300 square feet to the house. This is not going to be a McMansion, which we've all seen way too many of all over the place. We're adding a second floor on top of the existing garage. That goes back about 20, 24 feet. And then there's a kitchen section and what's now an entry hall and the living room. We're raising the ceiling on there up to 12 feet, so it's a little more dramatic. And then the gabled section in the back, which you're seeing on the bottom left-hand corner there, we're keeping that. We're extending it 10 feet to the right and flattening the roof off so it goes along with the rest of the contemporary design that we're talking about. A lot of the stuff, I mean, I've been practicing architecture for probably too long, but over 50 years. And I've even had projects that I've done in neighborhoods that have been torn down and rebuilt to kind of keep up with the more modern day architecture, materials, everything else that's out there. In fact, the only house I ever built for myself in Arlington lasted for 20 years, and then it got nuked and someone put a McMansion where the house was. So we're kind of familiar with what happens in neighborhoods as they grow and they change and they mature. But in this particular neighborhood, it's predominantly split level houses. So we're trying to go raise the quality of houses in the area. There are different drawings we've got to show you that will make more sense probably. I guess one that we were asked to do, I'm not sure what your numbers are, but it's the one where we had the 3D look at the house of the design next to the house next to us. Keep going, one down, yeah, number 12. I mean, this one, at one point, we sent you one that had dimensions on it. We were asked for dimensions, but the house to our left, the ridge height of that house is 25 feet. Our site is roughly 5 to 6 feet lower, and our roof line is only 22 feet above our grade. So we're considerably lower and not imposing at all on that house or any other house in the neighborhood for that matter. I think the, neighborhoods these days have to kind of renew themselves. I've done a lot of houses here in Reston that have other people around. But in this case, I had a wonderful client, Clarence and Ann, and their love of contemporary architecture, particularly Ann coming from Denmark, it really, we're just trying to do something that makes them want or have a house that they really want. It's a very simple house. It's going to be more of a background house than an in-your-face kind of house. The materials we're using, we have a whole sheet with all the materials we're talking about listed on, it's our sheet number 17. I'm not sure what number that is. They're different. It's probably after all of that stuff.
Page
I
50.
don't know. Anyway, there was one in there. You're getting down into the landscape plans. So it's a whole different architect. There it is. I mean, all the materials are all listed there. It's hardy. It's different. It's wood decks, the fake wood decks, the lighting fixtures, the little light fixtures that go along the pathways, garage doors. I mean, we've selected materials that are very contemporary and fit this very well. Next to the front door, that picture you see on the right-hand side in the center, all Danish houses, not all, but a lot of them have a little bench by the front door. This is one little thing we added at Ann's request that it just provides a little respite outside of your front door. If you look at the renderings we've got, you see it's done more in natural wood against the black background of the dark gray siding. I can go through all the materials, but there's no reason to do that. The pathways around the outside are shown in the stone on the left there, the Cafe Crema. I don't know, the doors, gutters, everything else is all there. I think I'd be welcome any questions you all have, but I think you can see from all the renderings, the photographs of the existing house, it really is, it's just a split level house. Like I said, we're not increasing the square foot more than 300 square feet and lowering all the roof lines. So anyway, I could talk for another hour, but I think you guys have been here 2.5 hours already. So I welcome any questions. I think our landscape architect has a lot to say about the landscaping and the small pool they're putting in the backyard. So I'll let Shane, I think he's on the list here somewhere, that he can jump in and talk about his landscaping, which is going to be extensive. So I'll welcome any questions when you get around to it.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, if the landscape person could present, that'd be great. And just a couple key things, if you could hit on just any tree removals, and then obviously the new planting plan. You guys have great documentation, but if you guys could just speak on that, that would be awesome. So, is the landscape architect here?
Yeah.
Yes. My name is Shane Fagan. I'm a registered landscape architect in the state of Virginia, representing Groff Landscape Design today. Let's see. I think this is mostly still civil. We had the same trees to remove that the civil documentation put together for the grading and infiltration trench sheets that need to be submitted to Fairfax County.
Yeah, I would just jump to slide 72, Steph, because
Yeah,
they
they're.
cover all the
I'm not
same-
sure if Bell is on. His drawings are a little tough to read. I like to think ours are a little easier to read here. So hopefully that will help. So our cover sheet kind of shows our overall plan of what we're working towards. Majority of this is focused on the downhill side of the house. That is where the extension is going. So as Richard mentioned, that's basically the extra. Sorry, Richard, I think you said 300 square feet, something like that.
Just 10 by 30.
10 by 30. And we were tasked to place a plunge pool, which is a reinforced concrete type of pool that is basically brought in pieces. So it is about as low impact as it gets. It's almost a kit of parts that are put into place. It is 9 by 21. We are 10 feet off of the edge of the house extension, and we limited our paving to essentially 10 feet off of the edge of the house, and then an area for some lounge chairs towards French Horn Road. And really the only other things to point out on the cover sheet, I would say this gives an overall idea of how we're addressing edge disturbance between the house, the pool, and the current kind of, I would say, wooded condition of the site. Basically everything to the right of what we're seeing from the pool as it wraps around towards the back of the house is pretty wooded. So all we're proposing here is as much restoration and addition of new trees, because we do have to take out trees. I would say a vast majority of the trees that we are proposing to take out, which will be on the next slide, are due to overcrowding, health, and various conditions that the arborist has pointed out. There's very few that are needed to be taken out due to construction, and those are, I would say, pretty much 100% due to the requirement of the infiltration trench for drainage. We've done everything we can in our ability of design to position elements to not take any trees out. So all of these, which I think is on our L2, we have a tree removal schedule, and those are listed in there as far as the reason that those need to be taken out.
Slides are.
L2 and L3 are basically just photo documentation of the various trees are removed. There's a stand of trees in the front part of the house, kind of around the bend in the road or the intersection of the road. All of those are that are being proposed to be taken out are due to overcrowding. Those are all, other than I would think one, two, other than two of the trees are all the small trees that are in the front. I think 90% of those are Foster's holly that are, I mean, you can see in the pictures, they're basically almost growing on the base of other trees. So those are fine to remove while still keeping the character of the stand of the trees that are in the front. The two large trees that are to be removed, 1738. Let's see, I'm checking my notes here. That's a poplar, yellow poplar, which Ann and Clarence's property has quite a bit of poplars on there. Let's see, 138, that is due to, it's got hollow tones in the main trunk. So that is going to fail with time. And the other one, 1742, that is a white oak, and that has several cankers going up the main trunk. and cankers will eventually lead to a column of decay. So all of this is documented in the sheets that we have provided. Really, we are doing our best effort to not remove any trees that we don't have to. I know it looks like an extensive list of trees to be removed, but like I said, 95% of those are due to health reasons or overcrowding. And I think there are 5 total on our list that are due to the requirement by Fairfax County for the infiltration trench. We worked with a civil engineer to position that trench in a way to avoid additional trees being taken out. We made an effort to really, puzzle pieces, fit it in a position that we are not encroaching on any sort of root systems, really trying to keep that character in the right-hand side of the property along French Run Lane so that stays in a condition where it looks very wooded. And I think we did, not patting myself on the back, but I think we did a pretty good job of kind of positioning that in a way to keep the character over there while also including this side patio and plunge pool without further disturbance. Going into, let's see, L5. Okay, so this is, yes, this sheet shows the tree removal schedule. Everything marked in red is to be removed, and condition or reason for why those are going to be removed are listed on the right-hand side of that schedule. So you can kind of see the spread, but you can also see the other existing, and those circles that are in there are representative of caliper size. So you can see, like I mentioned, there's 2 larger trees coming down on the front. Those are due to health reasons, but the remaining larger black dots are caliper size of very large trees. I know there are some pictures that Richard had from the street view that showed that stand, and it's a really nice, I would say, feature of the house of having that strong stand in the front. In an area where we are removing trees, we are also proposing replacement of additional trees. So that comes in a later sheet, but we're not just removing trees, we are replacing and doing our best to not only provide sort of a edge of woodland species type of planting plan adjacent to the pool area, but also providing some ornamental trees in the front that I would argue are better replacements than just a inundation of hollies that are kind of all over their property right now. So let's go to I think L3 and L4 are context images and tree removal images. L5 is our kind of rough grading plan, which is a zoomed in plan here. Really really the point of this is to show that we are doing our best effort to restrict disturbance outside of the zone that we're working in. That will include a very short retaining edge of that patio. I think I have it marked at about 16 inches tall, which then with the additional planting we're putting in is basically invisible on that corner. It's 16 inches. And outside of that, because of the way that the pool is put in, the pool wall itself can act as a retaining edge. So if it needs to be slightly exposed, that's okay. What that helps us with is not inflicting any further damage on critical root zones for remaining trees that we're keeping. If we want to go to L6, which should be the next sheet. So we have our additional plant schedule listed out there in the bottom. As you can see, it's really 2 replacement trees in sort of the front corner of the house, and then edge conditions along where there is existing lawn. That sort of curved arc that we're showing that starts in the back and curves around towards French Horn is really building upon what Anne and Clarence already have, which are basically like pollinator type of shrubs. We want to encourage that and emphasize that as much as possible. So most of our shrub and perennial selections that curve around that corner are focused on either woodland edge conditions or emphasizing pollinator type of planting. Additionally, along the road and then the side property line in the back, we're introducing, sorry, I'm going to look at what we've got over there. Did this quite a while ago. We have, what do we put over there? Oh, a mix of American holly and Japanese cedar that's there as an evergreen replacement to both encourage replacement of some of the hollies that we're taking out, but also provide basically sort of a privacy zone along the outside. Any sort of conflicts that they have with existing trees, we just will not have shrubs being put in there. That'll be kind of inspected as we're putting things in and adjusted on site. Outside of that, there's 2 small planting areas adjacent to the house, and really the rest of the site is being left as is. Everything that's marked in light green lawn, that is existing lawn as is. And then we have sort of a light tan near the garage and on the back side of the new 4-season room. Those will just be planting beds that'll be there for either evergreen shrubs or perennials that will go in. Outside of that, I think that is the extent of our landscape plans.
Great. Thank you, Shane. Let me go. I think there's some affected parties. I don't know if they want to speak or not. So let me go to them. Or sorry, does that conclude your presentation? I'm assuming it does.
It does. If there's any questions,
Yeah, we'll definitely come back for questions.
Sounds good.
Don't worry. Yeah, we'll be back. Just I need to procedurally. That word is hard to say at this time of night. All right, staff. Do we have affected parties that wanted to speak? And while they designate, just a reminder, if you're representing well, these are probably all homeowners, so they all have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, I'm asking them to unmute. The first one, I believe, is Glenn Small.
Yeah, I have no problems with the proposed project. I just want to hear, for the record, the neighbors' plans for how to minimize impact to the neighborhood during the construction.
Okay.
Well,
thank you, sir.
No. Sure.
Staff, do we have anyone else?
Yes, Reston Association, Cameron Adams.
Okay.
Hello, good evening. This is Cameron Adams on behalf of the Reston Association Board of Directors. I'll just read the statement for the record. Reston Association most certainly encourages owners to take steps in which they can enhance their homes while fitting into the character of Reston. Reston Association takes this first initial review as a work session and would imagine the DRB provides feedback to the applicant that could enhance their project while maintaining concepts which fall within the scope of the design guidelines. While a recent redesign occurred on Tumbletree Way a few years ago, the design, while different than the prior design, or this design, while different than the prior design, went through a rigorous review, multiple meetings, and thoughtful yet constructive feedback on the proposed design. All projects should conform to the applicable or associated design guideline with compatibility in design to the character of the immediate properties. The project applicant should be encouraged to further refine their project with the concepts prescribed in the Reston Association design guidelines. Thank you.
Thanks, Cam. Anybody else, staff?
No other IPs.
So all I would ask is for the one affected party about the affected of during construction, I would just say that we as a board do not control that. I think that would be staff is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would be more of a covenants complaint, right? If something was not being work done in a workmanlike manner to that extent, right?
So there are parameters that the design review board can most certainly address when it comes to the actual physical site. But in terms of like trail dumpsters or rollaway dumpsters on the street, that's something that would have to be reported to the county if there's traffic or if there's something like that. Those things should be, in my opinion, something that I think consistently the DRB has encouraged as a part of their feedback to the property owner or applicant as they go through their build process. And then of course the timeline for their project is something that the design review board has the ability to provide some additional parameters on those things as well. But yes, generally speaking, it would be something that members could file complaints if there was something that was foundational to be against residents' protective covenants.
Yeah, and I only say that because I don't know if they've selected a contractor yet or not, but normally the means and methods would be handled by the contractor, so they would be the one that would control all of the construction
Yeah,
materials,
we
traffic,
have a contractor. It's
workers,
Denny
et
Gardner,
cetera.
and I believe Norm is on here as an applicant. And he actually has sort of come up with a solution in terms of the dumpster and the rollaways. Basically, our driveway is larger than the other driveways that were sort of on the build that happened in 2021 and whatnot next to the affected party. Our driveway is large enough that the dumpster truck is actually parked there. And so we've already done a gutting of the house, and that has been very effective for taking away the debris without having to park it in front of anybody's house. And there's also in front of us, there's the French Horn Lane, which is right there, and it's a very long road, and we have no neighbor next to us. So,
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me go around the room, see if anyone has any questions for either of you guys or the architect or the landscape architect, and we can go from there. So, Samantha, do you have any questions for this?
I do have some design comments on it. The first impression is, wow, that's a very big house. Though keep hearing that the roof line is lower, but I look on the neighborhood street photo, and most of them are 1 story or 2 story with a slope the roof, and that does bring that when it's a slope the roof versus it's a flat roof, the roof height comparison is really not to the ridge line. So I like the simple form, but it appear to be a very big box. That's my first impression. Though we see a lot of modern simple phone in Reston, so it's really not a no-go for me. The second thing is I do feel that if this phone is really more preferred, somehow would like to see the material itself or through some sort of detail to bring this design more in conform with the neighborhood, so it's not so stand out and different. That is something I'm hoping to see, such as the HardiePlank, how big are they, and what color are they, and how they abutting the windows, things like that. So that would be my comments.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point, Samantha, with the siding and trim. I know I had that one as a note, so maybe we can just touch on it for Richard. So what is so obviously they're Marvin windows. Is your goal to have no window trim? The Hardy sample provided was a lap siding, so I'm a little confused. I'm assuming you're going to use more of a vertical product that they offer. So
Yes, it's vertical.
What's your plan for corner boards, etc.?
It's vertical siding, Hardy. That's one of the samples we showed you. There'll be a piece of the Hardy board, flat trim that runs around the windows themselves. Just to comment on what Samantha just said, the footprint of the house is exactly what it was before, except we added a 10-foot extension to one end. So it really is not any larger than that. It's mildly or small, not really larger than the house that was there. I mean, in terms of the footprint or square footage. So it's not, like I said, initially, it's not a McMansion at all. And it's a different design. Yes, it's flat roofed as opposed to that. But anyway, the siding, the Marvin windows they're black windows with a piece of flat black trim made by Hardy that goes around them.
Do you know what size? Like, is it 3.5 inches? Is it 5.5 inches?
It's a 1x4. It's a 1x4, 3.5 inches. Yeah.
The 1x4. Okay. And then the siding. So staff, if you go to slide 51, just because we're talking about it. So the material page has a lap siding is what they're showing. So for the vertical, I think we're just going to need information on are you using their Sierra 8? Are you using a more tongue and groove product? Like this is a lap siding that's on here. So you're not using this. So what?
That was more for color than anything. It's their vertical siding. It's not tongue and groove or anything like that. It's just that was for color to show you.
Is it the Sierra 8 that they do like that? The sheets, or is it going to come in individual panels?
It's individual panels.
Okay. I think clarifying that and having that information. Corner boards. Are you guys doing corner boards? Are you guys going to do? Are they going to be mitered corners or what?
Corner boards will match the trim around the windows. The 1x4s at the corners to finish them off.
It'll stick out from the design.
It's a little thicker, yes.
Yeah, that would be, when modern architecture is done properly, I would say, it could be very successful. I would say I would study the details just a little bit more, especially like the corner boards as an example, because I've ran into it recently on a project in North Reston with a CP1 home, and just making sure like typically on these modern houses, they try to do as little trim as possible. That's just the style of the design. And so as soon as you start introducing some of those more traditional corner boards and things like that, I think it starts taking away the quality. Obviously it is going to be painted, a dark color. So I think that helps. It makes sometimes disappear those things, but that would be the only thing I would comment is I do think some of those little details need to be, make sure they're executed properly. And the best way to do that is documentation.
Yeah, we can do that, Mike. I think about 3.5 years ago, you all approved another house we did for the Barry residents. It was again an all black house and all the trim and everything there. It's the same idea here. It's the same kind of trim. We can provide that to you.
Yeah, similar architecture for sure, but this one I think has that level of extra, even more modern. And so I would just say that there's just to make sure that that it's successfully done. I just think those little minimalist details, unfortunately, they're harder to execute for craftsmen. So that would be my one of my comments on the siding that I was saying. So Samantha, did you have anything else that you would want to see or discuss?
No, I think you capture really well.
Okay. Gazde?
I have no questions.
Okay.
For this one.
Brian?
Oh my God, Ford, I have lots of questions. What are you just painting the existing brick?
Yes.
And it's just gonna be a black color to match siding?
Yes, it will. Yes.
Okay. Could you talk a little bit more, if we go to slide 33, it's kind of the rendering. Could you talk a little bit more about this front walkway thing? I'm not sure what to call it. This kind of stepped front walkway thing that's leading down to the poolside?
Yeah, there's an existing sidewalk that's kind of crumbling that comes up to the front door now. we're making the main entry to the house coming from the garage side, and then have this stone flat coming across to the front door, and there's a platform at the front door, and then we're cascading stairs and planters down toward the backyard. That's sort of what you're seeing there. It's not the correct color on the stone will be the same color as we show on the sample sheet, but those cascade down to the back, and they'll be full of different plantings and stuff. Shane can give us a list of that, but they're open planters that cascade all the way down to the back with some lighting. The lighting will be those little L-shaped things we've got coming down the hill.
So the face of what we're seeing on this render that kind of reads as concrete here, that's going to be one of these, the techno block, the creams.
No, if you look at the material sheet again,
okay,
the stone is shown there.
Cafe Crema, I suppose that's the one.
Yeah, that's the right one. To your left,
Cafe
that's
Crema.
the stone. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
That's what all that's going to be. It's a contrasting color to the dark color of the house.
Yeah. Which I think is needed. Okay.
And the bench is going to be built with the same sort of like the TimberTech stuff in the upper left-hand corner of the bench. We wanted to accent that. And the underside of the projected roof overhang will be that light color as well. So we're adding that color in a couple of different places.
I think that, and that's good to know, because I feel like that's, if we go back to maybe slide 33, if I just jump into some kind of more comments and questions, is I think that's my takeaway from this is where everything is kind of so monotone. I'm worried about is kind of harshness in this neighborhood. And so I appreciate like the front bench is really a fun idea. And I like that that's like a warm wood tone that's going to kind of offset it a little bit. But I think it might need some more of those kind of feature moments where it just to kind of help like break down the kind of darkness of the house if possible. Like, so I was wondering, like, you know, would the windows want to have like a wood trim or something like that, or be like a clad wood look or something like that to help offset that as one idea? Because I worry about the overall effect of this. I mean, I appreciate the modern design and the Danish design very much, but in this setting, I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty heavily landscaped around it. I think it's a question of accepting the vocabulary of what we're trying to do here. And I appreciate Mike's comments about the trim, and I think that's easily taken care of. But this is the design of this house. This is, what we're trying to do for the Taylor family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, start taking it apart by bits and pieces is not going to help the overall design. I mean, we're taking what's not a very attractive house. I mean, it's sort of a long section of one story that comes back to the two-story piece. And it's all this kind of nothing. It's, a vinyl siding and shingle roofs and stuff like that. So I think it's, it's hard to, when you come up with a design like this, it's hard to start picking it apart. This went through all sorts of different machinations. At one point, the roofs had an overhang. It just wasn't contemporary enough. So all these little pieces have been put together, gosh, over the last, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been. It's been a while. We've been working with this. So I think it's, I'd kind of hate to see it sort of taken apart with little pieces here and there. This is a pretty strong design. And I obviously like it. The Taylors like it.
Yeah,
and all the neighborhood seems to like it. I mean, I think they notified like 16 or 17 of the houses on the street, and I don't think anyone had any negative thoughts about anything that this house would be doing in the neighborhood. So I think it's, in that sense, it's very positive. And they didn't just notify 3 people. I think they notified 17 people, and everyone in the neighborhood was in favor. I mean, Clarence, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's true.
Yeah, we got emails from neighbors close to us and down the road saying that they are excited for that design. They feel that it'll elevate the neighborhood. And they've had, we've sent out, I don't know, I think it was more than 17 certified letters. We've had 4 direct signatures of neighbors and nothing.
Well,
Everybody's
and I
pretty
think to
much-
clarify, I don't think Brian was saying that he didn't, appreciate the design, and I appreciate that the neighbors are in support of it, but we are under a coveted design guideline where we have professionals who sit on this board who then oversee the improvements that are happening in neighborhoods. And so I think this process to us is when there's this big of a design, I think we like it to be iterative, where there may need to be some give and take. So I know, Richard, you sat on this board for a long time. We sat on this board together, so that it's an iterative process sometimes where there may be some need to take some of our feedback and hear it. So I don't think Brian was saying this is a hard stop kind of thing. I think he's just trying to break up potentially some of the massing or introducing. Danish architecture also has a lot of wood vertical siding in it, and it's a typical design detail in Danish architecture.
That's true. That's true.
So completely discrediting it, I don't think is the right kind of way. I do think that could give it some help. Like I said, I love the seat, like Brian was saying, and that introduces some of those wood elements. And maybe there's a way to introduce a little bit more wood elements to help it soften the contrast of the black. But I'm gonna let Brian continue with any of his thoughts.
Okay.
One thing, Richard, there is under the awning, and there is wood trim that is under the awning of the front door as well. And so that's just an additional contrast.
Yeah,
I think that will help a lot. Yeah.
The garage door and the front door are wood. If you go back to the material sheet again, they're all wood. Just as accents.
Brian, do you have anything else you want to continue with?
Yes, if you don't mind. So I guess, and back to that kind of massing question, I guess, Seth, if we go to 28 or just to the elevations, I mean, I was kind of wondering about the number of times the roof steps, and I was just wondering if especially where we have this big window next to the entry, like I almost want to either pull it up so it's matching I'm guessing the bedroom wing on the left, or I want to pull it down so it's aligned with the roof line over the front door, just to help break. It's almost like breaking the kind of taller forms on the bookends. Is there any play? Is there a reason that it just feels like maybe an extra step might just be it might be simpler if it weren't. So is there a reason that it has to be at that height, for example?
Yeah, there are a couple of things we're trying to do there. One, we're adding the second floor above the existing garage. So that got us up to the 22-foot height of the front section. And then we got into the next step down is where the kitchen is. And to have a more dramatic space in the kitchen, which then bleeds to the rear of the house, a high ceiling of about 12 feet in there. And then I like the idea of adding some movement to the architecture so it's not so static. So that's why it steps down to the entry. It sort of visually implies, here's the entrance. It's a little bit lower. It's a little more human scale. And that's what steps down. Then the rear section, the section on the right, that's already there. We kept the ceiling heights where they were. We just took the truss gable roof off and put a flat roof on it. So it just added a little movement to the elevation, so it wasn't just a static box. So that's why it is like that. And then it all ties together to what's going on behind this, so that whole center section with the two roof heights goes all the way to the rear of the house. That's your living area, your kitchen, so on and so forth. That big tall window comes all the way down to the countertop of the kitchen sink. The kitchen is right there looking out at the front. That's inside. I won't call it an architectural fetish, but it's close. I mean, it adds some movement to the whole design. And you can see in the north elevation how that thing at the front, this is an existing room on the back that we're making into a Four Seasons room. That's there already, but in the front, and that sticks out 10 feet coming at you as you see that elevation. That's existing. So we're elevating the depth of the house and stepping it down at the same time. Just so when you're inside, it's not just all a flat ceiling. The ceiling goes up and down, or down, whatever, or up. And then in the back, we cut away. There's that little porch sticking out at the back, little deck back there that comes off the master bedroom. So we're cutting into it, and you get some of the projections, like the thing in the center of the north elevation comes out, I think it's 10 feet or 11 feet. So we're playing with the masses from the French horn side. It's not quite flat because the rear section, actually, it's the typical, it projects 2 feet out over the brick. So there's on the south elevation on the right-hand side, where you got the cascading steps coming down, the brick part there sets back 2 feet from the siding part that sticks forward.
Mhm.
So there's some variation in planes along there as well.
Yeah, and I think I like that right side where there's just there is a little bit of play, a difference in materials to help the top box
Yeah.
read a little more. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, is there a way to pull that across the facade on, I call it the left side, where it starts to get, just the tallest
Yeah.
part? Like, is there a way to? I think there's a nice play between like the brick and the siding up above it there. So I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to kind of help break it down a little bit by carrying across like that line or something like that. And so that's where the kind of questions are coming in, is like, is there a way to just like, increase the variation on it a little bit? Because like I said, I like that right box. I like on the back side where you're talking about, you've like carved out this deck where you've started to do like a wood railing and some wood decking on the lower level. I think that's what's like really helping to like warm it up a little bit. So I think those moments are really nice. I kind of want to see it a little bit more throughout. I think would just help it feel a little softer and therefore integrate with the neighborhood a little bit better than where we are now. But let's see. Shoot. I think that is it for now. I guess the same kind of question on this, if we look at the south elevation, the same kind of cascading thing. I like that it's going to be the lighter stone. I wish it were like, I mean, I like the stone steps you've got on the left side here. This feels on the right side of the entry, it feels a little too kind of bulky and massive. I wish it were kind of like a little bit more integrated with the landscape a little bit better and kind of softer. It just feels like a little bit too massive in my opinion. And so that with the house being all kind of the same tone, I think that would be worth looking at a little bit more, what that actually wants to be when you get to like that level of detail as you kind of develop that. So
yeah, the cascading steps, I mean, we have to drop 8 feet to get from there to the grade at the back, and it's not a flat surface. They're going back and forth and in and out, so there's some movement there as well. But I understand what you're saying.
All right, thanks, Brad.
Michael, that's it for me.
All right, Mike B.
Just a general comment on the infiltration practice that we were looking for here. In terms of flow rates, understanding the areas of disturbance, et cetera, just looking at decent volume, and the soils are right on the line there. So I guess my suggestion would be some, just additional study and making sure that we're looking at the flow rates and the soil's capacity to take it and actually mitigate those flows without creating any headaches for ourselves down the line here. Obviously, just something worthy of some study, or at least some questions back to them. I know seasonal high groundwater being what it is, and we don't want to have a problem down the line that we could avoid now. So other than that, I think, y'all are talking about a bunch of the features here associated with the development. It is a stark change from the neighborhood, having walked through there a fair amount. It's a very interesting development. I visually find it very interesting. It's just a notable departure from the neighborhood characteristics in its current state. So
would you like Shane to touch on, or if they have someone to touch on your question about the stormwater?
I mean, I looked through the boring logs and a bunch of the lab data, Michael. It's just, it's one of those things where, I mean, you touched on it. There's a bunch of professionals on this board, and it's something that's in my bailiwick. It's just, hey, it's right. It's close. That's what I'm going to say. It's close. Not saying it's not feasible. It looks like the math is mathing for lack of a better phrase. Just it's right on the line where I'd be mathing twice, just making sure that we're not going to have any issues. So, an area of suggested additional study. That's all. So,
Okay.
good for me though, Michael.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Camelia, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm going to be quick because I'm given the time. I just want to say that I echo what Brian and sort of what Mike B said about, yes, this project will look very different from the other homes in the neighborhood. And I know the guidelines say that we really should strongly consider conformance with other properties adjacent to the proposed project and trying to make things look congruent with each other. And I agree that this would look pretty stark. And so I'd echo what Brian said about making some softer elements. And I completely understand what the architect was saying about how they're not expanding the building footprint, but at the same time, like even though the footprint stays the same, the vertical massing is, I mean, I can't help but like notice like a stark elevation in just terms of like the facade. It definitely, looks much more extensive than what it currently is. So just trying to keep in mind, like, making sure it looks harmonious with other homes in the neighborhood, which are very modest. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Camelia. Heather dropped. Emily.
I'm going to try and keep this brief, so I'm going to talk fast. You guys can watch the recording back to type up notes. So overall, I think it will be a beautiful project. I echo sentiments here. I do think it is a bit harsh. I know some of that is because of the rendering. The black can look very lovely up against dark background. I just do think we do need to soften things a little bit, like overall. More specific questions that I want more information on. I didn't see a notice about this. I'm going to kind of go for the pool first. The pool equipment pad elevation, it does look like it's going to be far down and that we're going to be using the pool as a retaining wall. So just wondering what that elevation is and how we're going to be kind of screening it, because it looks like we've got lower sumac in front of it and that pool equipment's almost going to be visible from the front yard, which I'm not super enthused about. Same thing on the plans. This is just more of a technical thing. You guys call out an auto cover, but especially if it's going to be up above grade, that auto cover box is going to take up room and space. And I don't see any detail about that. If it's going to be on the left side, if it's a single track, so on and so forth, just what that actual detail looks like. And that will come with the structural elevations, I'm assuming, later on. I'd also like to just touch on the note while I'm still on the pool. I think that the Pebble Fina, the interior selection that you guys have selected, that white is just going to be like neon blue when the pool is open. It's, again, trying to soften things, trying to keep things in a natural characteristic. That bright Pebble Fina tends to read like, again, like very neon blue, and I think you come up with a more naturalistic selection for what you have in mind there. That's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, but just wanted to point it out. And I see also, it only says pool on our plan, but there is an intention for it to be a pool and spa, yes? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but they're at the same level?
Yes.
Yeah, it's part of
Okay.
it's just a section. So
basically, like if it's a 9x21, you're gonna have like a 9x9 spa at one end, and then the rest of it's gonna be pool. Okay,
exactly.
I just wanted
it's
to.
part of the same footprint.
Yeah.
So.
It would be nice to kind of see that on the details and elevations, because again, spas do tend to make more noise. We can get into it when we. Again, I think we are gonna see this again in an iteration if I'm not putting the cart before the horse. But I do also want to talk about like the spa jet. Like the actual model of the spa jet, what that's going to be, and then lighting, because pool lights do create, nighttime kind of pollution. So I'd like to know how many lights, what kind of lights are they going to be, like the color rainbowy that are going to be cascading through and all that fun stuff. So I think that's it in terms of the pool area. And again, we don't necessarily have to address these questions tonight. These are just.
Well, Emily, I think it is worth. I think it's worth the question to the landscape architect, because I think it's important, because I'm trying to figure out whether this is like based on the topo I'm seeing and the what he described, there's going to be 3.5 feet of this pool edge exposed where, we above ground pools are not, allowed per se. And so how can we mitigate that to make it not appear as an above ground pool, I think is going to be an important aspect. And I'd like them to touch on that. And if this is like what does even that retaining wall look like? Is it a precast, concrete pool that just it sits there, or what does that look like? So I don't know if Shane can speak to that. I think is going to be important because that is a very public view shed from, I think it is French Horn Lane or whichever one is running there. So is he still on?
Yes.
Yes, I am. So the pool wall, the pool wall is there if we need to be, I don't know, maybe 6 inches below. I'm not sure where we're getting sorry, I think you said like 3 feet. We're definitely not 3 feet of change at any point. The pool equipment pad itself, we really realistically need to be within 12 inches rise or drop from the pool itself. So
Steph, can we go
that
to
is going
slide 76, please? I'm just taking elevation shots from your
Sure.
drawing. So you have pool coping at 261.4 feet. You have ground grade below that at 257.78 feet. That is approximately 3.5 feet of difference.
We have 10 feet that we will be grading up to basically meet the edge.
Okay. I would say that we definitely need to be showing that then.
The
It
reason we
kind
have
of
to have
says
the
limit of grading, maintain wooded ground surface. So is
How are you
it,
going to do that with the trees and everything?
yeah, fill in? Hmm.
it's working around critical root zones best we can.
Right, but 3.5 feet I mean, even if you're 3 feet, I mean, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a grading expert, but you're going to grade up 3 feet of dirt on top of existing trees. I feel like that's not a great idea.
Well,
No,
the
it's not great, but I'd also just like to clarify something. I'm looking at the grading plan, and our pool is called at 369.9, and then here it's 261. So I guess we haven't merged our landscape plan set with our grading plan set about what our elevations are. Because I've got top of wall and bottom of wall on the grading plan that aren't matching the top of wall and bottom of wall on here. So it's just making it a little difficult to parse out exactly what we're doing, because I mean, you don't have contours and topo on this plan set, and where we do have them, you've got different elevations where I am only seeing, that same elevation that you're talking about, but I also don't see a bunch of contours worth of grading on here. So something isn't, and I know some of it's because you sent it off to the thing and you got to do a revision. Like, I understand the boat that we're in, but we do need a plan that we can review and actually make decisions on. So
Yeah, and once again, if it's going to be graded out, like let's just see that. I just wanted to make sure we're not seeing, 3 feet of a pool, because then it becomes an above grade pool and I'm having to, there's different, guidelines that we be concerned about. So I think clarifying that grading is going to be, important. Because yeah, I'm looking at the civil now. They have 369.9. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's
there's a discrepancy there. There's 300s and then there's 200s.
Yeah, there it maybe is a 2 foot difference, but once again, I'd like a little bit more clarification on that. So sorry, Emily, to interrupt. I thought it was an important thing to discuss. And then your question about the pool equipment, I think is a valid one as well, with needing, you know, usually, I would love to screen this a little better than what it is. And that's, to me, they don't want to look at it either. So that's why I was thinking that it was down below. And because, right, usually pool equipment does not sit right behind, in visual view of the pool. So I was trying to figure out if there's a way we could use that shed that's kind of existing. Like, I don't know how far away equipment can go. And I know then we're closer to the property line there. So we're, it's a little bit of a catch-22. But like, you're going to see that equipment not only from the pool, but also from French Horn Lane. And so I'm trying to figure out what's a good balance of the location for that, especially if they do have the spa kind of side of things, then the pool will be used at night, So just kind of thinking through those, that detail. I can't imagine that's where they want the pool equipment if the grade is in fact only 6 inches of difference. I wouldn't want to look at the pool equipment, but that's just, that's just me. So go ahead, Emily, continue.
Okay. All right, so that was touching on the pool stuff. As we already talked about the auto cover. I think that overall the planting plan looks good for the backyard. It looks like you guys have thought about that in terms of like density and species and kind of filling that in. Where I see it kind of lacking, which is surprising, is kind of the front elevation of the home. It feels like we put all this planting and screening in areas where, frankly, it's not going to get much seen except for by the homeowners. Whereas we've left this front facade that we're talking about softening and kind of reducing its impact is just grass. And as far as I can tell, even these steppers, the kind of cascading stairways, just have grass in between them. Richard said it was going to have planting, but again, that's not what we're seeing here. So is there a plan to wrap the planting kind of all the way around the house right now, or is the intention to leave it as grass in the front?
I can actually speak to that a little bit. There's absolutely a plan for planting all around the stairs on the front of the house that's going towards French Horn Lane. There's gonna be built on the corner right by the stop sign on the front of the house where French Horn Lane meets Tumbletree. There's gonna be built some stone boulders with some soft cascading flowers. So it's very similar to the corner right across from there. So the corner on French Horn Lane on the right side is going to be mirrored onto our property. So that's going to be the softening of the whole corner.
Yeah, but that's like the corner like off, and also we have to address the fact that you do have plantings that are being shown off your property. I don't know if that's cluster. I don't know if you have a authorization from wherever. I'm okay with it, as long as you've got permission to do so, but we can't approve, to my knowledge, any kind of implementation that's off their property line.
Okay, yeah. No, we don't have a cluster.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah, I will look into that, absolutely.
then it might be RA or it might be VDOT, in which case, that's a different thing. But no, I'm mostly just talking about like I want to see more planting around the base of the house, like the actual foundation planting and in those planters. I think before we can approve the big blocky masses of those planters, we need to know what's going to go in them, around them, like what it's actually going to look like, because it's not going to just be, a grass area. And also, kind of on that note, I just want to point out, like, I know we say in the materials sheet that we're going to make things like Techo Block Cafe Crema, but Cafe Crema is a color. It's not a material. I don't know what you guys are what actual block work, because we have very specific rules about what segmental blocks we can and cannot approve here as a cluster. Okay. And if you're planning on using Techo Block materials, there's really only like 2 or 3 of them that come in that Cafe Crema color, and I think we can only approve 1 of them. So we need to know what actual material you're going to be using for those raised
Is there a
planters.
place, Emily, where we can get the name of the stones that you guys will approve, so we know which ones to look for?
That is something that I have to double check with staff, and staff, if you can just put a note in for us, because I know that we don't usually approve uniform segmental block walls. They have to be more broken up and more architectural, but I don't feel comfortable making that recommendation right this second. But I can get the note from staff for you guys.
Okay, okay. I was just thinking, just to make it easier so we know what to choose, so we don't choose the wrong one that's not approved.
Yes, if you read through the guidelines about our segmental block, what we can and cannot approve, that is in there. And honestly, I don't even know if I like the idea of the segmental block being the thing for those steppers, or for like what the exposed pool edge is going to be like. I think what is in the rendering and what would probably be preferred is like a cast in place concrete that's got like a lovely architectural finish. I think if you're going to make a house like this, it would be lovely to go kind of that extra, minute. But we need details about what those planters actually are made out of, because the cafe crema is not sufficient. On that note, just like, I don't know if you guys were here for our other meetings, I think that if those planters are intended as some kind of walkway, that is a site inspector's like worst nightmare. We're going to need railings in locations. And then you've got cable railing shown in other locations. It would be fine to add railing in that area if you're intending on using it as a walkway. But especially as we get like out into that plant, you either need like a thick vegetation buffer and planting, or we need some kind of railing there.
Okay, but thick vegetation would be okay.
Yeah, I think avoiding a railing would be ideal from an architecture standpoint.
I agree. It would be ideal. So let's keep those drops.
And this is where maybe you can take some of that grade and you can grade. I mean, there's not a ton of tree over there, so like you might be able to grade, take some of the dirt and grade up along the side of those so it's less than that 30-inch, debate that we just, I don't know if you guys were listening on, but, I think there's ways that you could grade that area that, I would at all costs avoid a railing.
Yes, me too,
I think it would be detrimental to the architecture that you're trying to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so I'm in agreement with that. I would prefer to avoid a railing, but if we have, don't put yourselves in a situation where you need to put one later. So if we can have that happen.
And Emily, can I touch base on pavers just while we're talking about it? Just because I have a comment. And correct me if I'm misreading this, but I'm on sheet what is this? L6. Is it really necessary to have, 80 pavers along the rear of the property that go kind of like that? I mean, I'm assuming those are like 2x3 pavers, maybe whatever they are. And I get architecturally it looks very nice in a plan view, but in reality, like the grass growing between them, is it really going to be successful kind of in a more wooded area? Is that, do we need that many of stepping stones? It feels like a lot. Especially since we already have kind of the walkway around the front. Do we really need another walkway around the side? In what material is that going to be? Is it going to be more of just a natural bluestone? Is it going to be the crown? I don't know if they make a Teco Block crema. That's not my field. So just curious on those and if they're really that necessary. I get connecting the deck down to, the small deck down to the pool area. Like those I feel like are okay. But once we start adding this whole thing, it just feels, feels extreme. So I don't know if
I may, I think I can kind of help nip this in the bud a little bit. I actually like the stepping stones and they could match the pool deck. I think the issue here is once again that there's nothing to soften them from, and again, we've got grass growing in places. I think if we saw a planting plan that kind of helped screen those steppers or like soften them around, because we've got this nice vegetative border like along the back edge, and then it just kind of dies into nothing on this plan. So I hear you, Michael. I don't mind a pathway actually circling all the way around the property of the house, like the perimeter of the house. That's super functional, and they could get the same cafe crema to match what the pool deck is. I'm sure that's the intention there. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm in love with the current, where the landscape plan ends, more or less.
Okay. I hear you.
And then I have two more things, and I'll let you, and I'll cede my floor time. One, the Corten steel boxes. We didn't touch on those. They're not in the frame, like in anything. Those are also directly where your mailbox is. So what's the plan for the mailbox?
Actually, currently the mailbox is all the way out.
Oh, they're up. It's up by the street. Never mind. So mailbox can stay where it is. But yeah, those Corten steel planter boxes, we need height, length, like what's going in them, like, because that could be like, we don't want to have like, massive bollards of Corten steel, or maybe that's what we use to help soften, instead of bringing wood in everywhere as we start to play with that Corten as our detail. You could do Corten retaining walls instead of those big Teco Block ones in the front. Like that could be an interesting thing. I just think we need to see more information on it. And then the last thing is just, what's the plan for drainage between the house and the pool? Because that will be a significant kind of detail in the pool deck that I think you guys need to address just again in a future iteration for this. I just want to see, like, are we using a strip drain? Or, like, if so, what's it gonna look like? Are we gonna just, like, I don't want your stormwater just rushing into your pool. That's no fun for anybody. So what's that gonna look like? And I think, poor staff, that is my second to last comment. Tree canopy requirements from the county, from Fairfax County, say we don't have to plant any more trees. It's a 30% tree requirement. The county is not saying they have to plant any more trees, but they are going above and beyond and filling out this canopy plan, which I do applaud. So I wanted to end. I know that was a long list and it seems like I'm like nitpicking at things, but honestly, overall, I do really like this. I think it's got like huge potential and I'm excited to see where the project goes. I just think overall, we need more information across the board. So.
Great. Thank you, Emily. All right, I think it's on to me. I have a little bit of a list as well. I've tried to hit some of them while we were talking on it, just so we can quickly go about some things. I'm going to do landscaping just because we're already looking at it. Landscape lighting. What is the plan for landscape lighting, house lighting? I saw some where there's some of these like steppers. We're going to need to know quantity of lights that are added. We just had a meeting with the board of directors last week. It's something in our guidelines that we are working on updating to kind of give clear language on, but we definitely need to know the number of site lighting, where they are, what type of lighting they're putting out, how tall they are, etc. There's going to be a lot of steps here. There's a lot of different, areas that you're walking, so I'm sure there's going to be site lighting. We would like to know what that is. Also, any house-mounted lighting. I saw some in the renderings, but I didn't really. I saw one cut sheet for maybe a couple sconces on that materials page that we were looking at earlier. But just kind of giving a little bit more information on the site lighting, I think is something I don't have.
Just to correct you, Mike, there are drawings in there that show all the landscape lighting locations, not
Where?
on the landscape plan, but on the architectural plan and all the lights that are on the side of the houses. There's a little L-shaped fixture that is what we're using. It's about 15 inches tall. It's all on the drawings.
Which page is it on?
One of the floor plans, I think, one of the architectural floor plans.
Slide 24.
Okay, so those are just the lights for that pathway up front, and then so we're not going to light anything in the rear. We're not doing any riser lights for the stairs.
There's
down.
another that shows you where all the outside lights on the house are, all the sconces, and the lights down the front. We added a sheet later on about the pathway around the back of the house. Might be the next sheet after that, but we did submit a sheet that showed where they were. It's all on the drawing somewhere, mysteriously. Go back to maybe the first floor plan. I can't remember where we put it, quite honestly, but it was
So you're
on there.
doing the cylinder sconces, and then you have the L lights, but I don't see anything for like the pool deck or anything like that. So
The pool. We'll make sure it's on there. It's on there.
Yeah,
The pool
that'll be
deck
the only thing.
lighting.
I see all the cylinder lights. I mean, it's
We'll make sure it's clear.
Okay. The going to the architecture, I think where I'm struggling with it, and I think it's one of those details once again with the modern architecture that it needs to be done right, is this gutter system on the rear. I really feel like the parapet needs to turn that corner, and there just needs to be a through wall scupper. Having that full gutter go along the back, I just in two locations on the sunroom and on the back of like the addition over the garage, and the other side towards just this exposed gutter system. I just think looks. I don't know. I just think it looks off from what you guys are going for. You're looking for these perfect boxes, and I think it just. I don't think it's successful. You have a nice clean front elevation, and then you go to the back here, and it could be cleaner if, we just did a through wall scupper down with the same downspout locations you have. But, that would be one of my kind of feedback. I also think with the fascia board on the sunroom, and it's getting really large, and I don't really know why.
Can we get back to what would
Yeah,
be
slide
that elevation?
31. Slide 31 staff can kind of show what I'm talking about the best. So if you zoom in on that sunroom, either top right or bottom left.
Now go to the elevations, not the rendering.
Well, the rendering is easier to see what the condition is.
The elevation's probably more correct. That's why I'm saying that.
So slide 28 stuff. So you kind of have these bigger, boxier fascias, and I'm trying to figure out why. When everything else on the front and everything is so much slimmer. And then here we have
Part of what you're seeing there is the top of the fascia farthest away from you, the roof sloping toward you to where the gutter is. It's a 4-inch square gutter runs across there. So that the lines are confusing, but the top line is the height, top of the parapet. The next line is where the roof begins sloping towards you, and then it hits the gutter, which runs left to right across it.
Right. And I understand that. That's where I'm thinking the parapet. To me, I would want to continue the parapet around and really conceal that whole roof line and just have a through wall scupper. That's
I understand. It's pretty well hidden on the back of the house, but I don't know.
And it's more
having
of
a slot
to continue the architecture of this perfect box that you're trying to achieve. You kind of, the great idea of a parapet is it hides all that stuff you don't want to see, and then you go to the back of the house, and then all of a sudden you lose that magic. And so that's the only a feedback. The sunroom, I'm trying to figure out why there's such a big fascia situation going on.
There isn't. Again, that's the roof sloping toward you. It comes
But I don't
down
think
to
it is, because the gutter is up high on this elevation. I mean, that's why the rendering I was saying, it shows
you're seeing again, well, where the roof drops down, you're seeing the top of the other side of the house, and the roof sloping all the way to the rear wall of the sunroom, or whatever we call it. And all you're seeing there is the 4-inch gutter coming across. There's no fat fascia. It's
so
flat drawing in 3
elevation and the rendering then are incorrect, is what you're saying.
The rendering made it look like a fat fascia, and it's not. That whole thing slopes to a 4-inch gutter, runs across the back.
So the siding is going to go up to a little metal coping that's going to go over.
There'll be a flat board across to head off the siding. Yeah.
Okay.
You can sort of see that.
Yeah, I would say clean up that elevation and the rendering, because it's very confusing. It makes that building, that sunroom, look very different than the rest of the architecture.
Yeah.
So that was confusing me. One other comment about the sunroom, I really think what makes, once again, Danish modern architecture, whatever we want to call it, having these windows in the sunroom, you have all these beautiful glass, but then you separate it all instead of mulling it together and creating these bigger forms like you have on the front. I think a sunroom would be a perfect time where we could kind of combine these pieces of glass versus then separating them, and then you run into a weird condition. Do you run the siding up between it? Do you have a flat trim board? What do you do once it gets kind of to executing it? I really think trying to create these bigger mold forms could potentially be more successful for, once again, the window arrangement on the sunroom. I think that's all I have. I think I think generally the board looks, I mean, and I could be misspeaking, I think generally we could go for an in concept approval. But I think there are little minor, not minor, but kind of middle of the grade details that we're looking for. I mean, I could be misspeaking. Once again, I'm only one board member. I think we can get to an in concept tonight, but that's, I'm going to go around the room. We'll have some further discussion, and we'll see. Does anyone have any other thoughts, comments that came up that they want to jump in and ask, or have any further discussion between us?
I don't have anything else, Michael. I think I would share your sentiment that we could probably get to an in-concept,
Okay.
some sort of motion towards an in-concept approval pending additional yada, 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 yada.
Yeah, which, I have a list, but I tried to take a list, but I'm hoping staff took better notes than I did. So does anyone have anything else? Anything? If not, I can take a stab at a motion. Okay. I will do a motion to approve in concept the project before us with the following request for additional information. I would say I'm going to go down the list. It's not in any particular order, but it's how I wrote it sloppily on my notebook here. I have clarifying the siding type, the exact type, whether it's a nickel gap, V groove, shiplap, whatever it's going to be. That trim board sizes, window trim sizes. Clarify that. Clarify any of the lighting outside of what's attached to the building or the L lights that are currently existing, just any additional lighting that's around the pool deck, etc. Clarify the steps going down to the backyard. What is the grade around them? What are the plantings that are going inside of them? What is the actual material to execute the design? I would put on mine that the windows on the sunroom should be restudied to be more in conjunction with the front mold together windows that we have. I would also restudy, and not saying you have to do this, but restudy just the gutter system on the rear and how we can look at that. And then also clarify the grading at the backside of the pool with the equipment location and better kind of showing us exactly the grade difference there and how we potentially need to screen that equipment maybe a little better. Clarify some of the front yard and side, kind of left side yard landscaping plan. Sounds like there is, plan to do planting there, just kind of providing that additional information. And then provide potential ways of introducing some additional maybe wood material or other types, Corten material I thought was a good idea of on the elevations to help maybe break up a little bit more this massing of the project. Did I miss anything? Or does anyone want to add anything or second the motion first and then we can add something?
And with the addendum that we examine the drainage details for the pool deck, and also, I think this goes without saying, but if we come back and the infiltration trench is non-feasible because of the infiltration rates, that we look at like a rain garden, but in general, just drainage details.
Yeah, so Emily, sorry, you're very quiet, so I'm trying to.
Oh.
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I was leaning closer to my speaker to hopefully hear it.
That's weird.
That's why I keep doing this.
I think she wants to add drainage detail. Did you second the motion though, Emily, or did you just ask for an amendment? You seconded? Okay. So there was a motion on the table. There was a seconded. Emily added an amendment to add drainage at the pool deck to be provide some sort of plan provided for that as well. Is there any further discussion on the motion from the board?
And auto cover details.
Adding auto cover details. I will second both of those amendments. Okay. All those in favor of the motion say yay. Yay.
Yay.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right. Motion passes 7-0-0. Staff, you're probably going to ask for a timeline. But if it's in concept, don't they kind of have leeway, right?
No timeline.
No timeline, okay. Not until full approval, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate the project. It's looking good. Just, a couple more details and we'll get there.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Moving on in our agenda, I don't think we have anything else. And I'm glad we got to strike some stuff from the agenda, or else we would have been sleeping here tonight. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, there's a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second from Mike B.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? I can't imagine there are. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. Yeah, June is in person or not in person, Cam?
Not in person, July, and you're not gonna be here.
Yeah, we'll have a little baby. So, I was banned from coming. So for the record.
Aw.
So, all right, sounds good, guys.
Baby number what?
Baby number 3. So it's easy. Now,
Bring him.
Yeah.
Girl.
Bring the infant, whatever, it'll be fun.
Girl, it'll be easy. Yeah, they'll be sleepy at that stage. All right,
That's what I'm
sounds
saying.
good, guys. Well, appreciate all the work tonight and the time, and we will see you guys next week. And staff doesn't have to adjust anything with panels. I think, right? We're good to keep rolling. Or
I don't think so, but I think Emily had a question.
Oh
No, sorry, my headphones died. I just wanted to say, like, guys, I'm gonna bring it up again. I think we need to put time limits either on applications, on presentations, something. If we had had that other application, we would have been here until midnight. I know Michael made a joke about it, but like, especially if this had been in person, like this is getting a little egregious. So somehow we have either got to figure out a way to limit the agendas or limit the amount of time. And I know I'm a verbose human being, so that could just be that each of us has a time limit. I don't know what it is, but we've got to find, there's got to be a better way. We've got to get these like either shorter or quicker or something, because it's 11 o'clock and I'm going to have to call in late tomorrow because I'm not going to be able to go to bed for like another 3 hours.
yeah, and my apologies on Old Reston Avenue. I should have just made it, comment, no response, kind of thing, because every time the first, half people were making comments and then she responded for 25 minutes. So
it's not just that one, but I agree.
no, but
It's not just that one, but in general.
that one took over an hour, when a work session for something that we don't really have a say in should probably take 15 minutes. And that would have cut us by 45 minutes, and then you could have gotten to bed, at a more normal time, right? So all right, guys, thank you guys. We'll work on doing something with that, Emily.
All right. Thanks, guys.